All right, thanks so much for being with us here on Atlanta News First Plus. We continue our coverage of Assembly Atlanta, set on 135 acres in Doraville. This is a project meant to really revitalize the community, bringing up to 4,000 jobs in television, movie, and film production. Now, we've talked quite a bit about what this could potentially mean for that community. We've talked about the fact that there could be many more jobs there, and that Assembly Atlanta is going to bring a space for people to work, play, and live. I want to take a closer look now at how that is impacting the local real estate market.
So this is the kitchen. We had the cabinets and the countertops replaced.
Tracy Queen is a longtime Doraville homeowner who just put her home on the market.
This is our backyard.
Her thoughts on the long-awaited Assembly studio nearing its completion.
What's interesting is we've been watching that for years, and we've been hearing all kinds of exciting things that were coming.
And while she's selling for a little bit more space, it's properties like hers that will soon be in high demand.
I think the market definitely will boom. If anything, it will increase and help the economic growth here, because this particular studio is going to bring multiple jobs to the area.
Erica Canada is a realtor with Atlanta Communities Real Estate.
This area is still pretty popular. This is a very nice established neighborhood.
Canada says homes in Doraville are currently going for $200,000 to $600,000. She says the attraction will increase home values, but it also comes with a setback.
We need more homes.
High demand and low inventory, and what is anticipated to be more people looking to rent than buy. Canada says developers are capitalizing on that very thing.
Around the area of Doraville, there is a lot of new developments. We have some new construction in Tucker. We have some new construction that's happening in Brookhaven.
Empty plots like these will soon look like this, with several apartment complexes taking shape throughout the area, as the studio is set to bring all the buzz to Doraville.
I think it's great. You know, something productive wants to happen there.
Queen, who is staying in the area, is looking forward to what's to come.
Kind of got a little bit of a wait and see mentality.
Brittany Ford, Atlanta News First.
Our very own reporter Brittany Ford here at Atlanta News First with us. We just saw your story. A very important part of all of this is the impact it's going to have on the Doraville community. Talk to me a little about going out there and talking to the people that are going to feel the impacts of a project like this.
You know, it's interesting because a lot of the homeowners there had positive things to say. Of course, one of the biggest factors with something like an Assembly studio, a Tyler Perry studio of that kind of magnitude and size coming into an area is that property value for homes would increase. So a lot of these property owners, when we spoke to Tracy Queen in the story there, had known about Assembly, was excited for the studio coming to the area. Her story was very unique in the sense that, she was already having her home on the market, but was still staying in the area. So also going to be able to reap these benefits of the jobs and the demand. But again, I think the most interesting piece of interviewing too, the real estate agent there, Erica, we spoke with, was also that, there's not enough homes in Doraville. I actually, when I was writing my web story for this, touched base with her, and she had said, we had 30 homes when we shot the story just a couple of weeks ago, I think in early or late September. A text just from her, I think it was Tuesday we were talking, or Monday rather, she said they have 11 homes in the market right now in Doraville. So you think about the demand that's going to come to this area and the homes that are just not there. But on the flip side, again, a part of that story there we saw, and the city has a really cool interactive map. We have a link to that on my story on AtlantaNewsFirst.com that just shows you all of the development that's coming to the area. There's apartment homes. There's a new city center that's being built. There's a lack of home and availability right now as far as home buying, but they do anticipate, as we learned in my story as well, that more people are going to be wanting to rent and not necessarily buying homes, just the way the movie industry is with, you're here in LA, you're in Georgia for 6 months. So, of course, there will be some people that are looking to make their forever home in Doraville because of the Assembly Studios, but nonetheless, they do anticipate it to be a more renter's market, which is why all those developments that are renderings now are so desperately needed.
And so desperately needed, such a good way to put it. A project like this is going to bring a lot more than just opportunity for people breaking into the film industry. It is really going to expand Doraville as a community. We're talking about a community of 10,000 people.
Yep.
The General Motors assembly plant shutting down in 2008, definitely taking a toll on jobs in that area. I actually was talking to our Decatur-ish media partner, Decatur Dan, as we like to call him. He spoke on that. He said, the median salary in Doraville is $42,000. Most people, about 33% actually, to be specific, have children under the age of 18. You're talking about families that are in need of work and are in need of having a home and creating a space for themselves. So a lot of people that will feed into that demand, as you just said. Talking to that real estate agent, what are some things that you kind of touched upon that you weren't able to include in your story?
I think it was really encompassing. I think we were actually able to kind of get a gauge of the Doraville housing market. Of course, it's not just Doraville, right? It's Tucker, it's Chamblee, it's the surrounding areas too as well that are going to be feeling this impact of more people looking for homes, looking to rent homes. That was one piece, and us focusing on Doraville and, the proximity from the studio to the certain homes in the area. But it's not just Doraville that's going to be feeling this impact of the demand for rental properties, home values potentially again going up as the high demand for these jobs in the area come to as well. But it will be those surrounding areas, the Tuckers, the Chamblee area, that will also experience that. That was one thing we couldn't really get to a real estate agent in every single little city, but we did do a really good job, I feel like, of explaining the setbacks and the hurdles of what that area is going to feel, but also, of course, the reaping of the benefits that will come with it, with this new development and really urbanizing the area to be more livable as well for people that are looking to settle in those new apartment spaces, that are looking to buy. Another interesting, I think, factor that came out of that too is, we were talking with the real estate agent, and you only got about 30 homes in the market right now in Doraville, which is crazy to think about, but they're not cheap. You think you're going a little bit out of the city, but she was saying the average single-family home was going in the 200,000 mark to the 600,000 mark. So that's kind of inner city. You're not really getting a deal out there. And with, again, the Assembly Studios coming into the area, they expect that those home prices are only going to rise. So I think that was another interesting factor that we learned out there. But it's going to be an encompassing demand across that entire area for housing development and really changing the real estate market in itself.
A phenomenal job covering this angle of the story and really highlighting the lasting impacts Assembly Atlanta is going to have on the community and surrounding communities. We are going to have another chance to catch a report later on in our Atlanta News First newscast live from Assembly. Anything that you want people to look out for? I know you mentioned that web story. What can they expect from you?
Yeah, the story is airing tonight. Tonight on our 11 o'clock newscast, the full story airing tonight. Like I said, I think that really that interactive map that we have in the web story is a really cool resource for anybody that's just interested. Say you're a resident in Doraville, longtime resident in Doraville. A lot of people don't always know what's coming up in their, in their communities until they get informed. So if you want to check out that web story, it does have a really cool interactive map that shows you every single new development that the city of Doraville has, from, again, single home construction, a new city center. It's a really good resource if you're interested in the Doraville housing market, you're living there, want to be more informed. And again, the story tonight is airing at 11 p.m. I'm really excited.
Thank you so much for joining us here, Brittany.
Our Brittany Ford speaking with Maria Moreau about the real estate market being impacted in Doraville by all of this development. Okay, so if you maybe already own a home, but maybe you're interested in kind of getting involved with the film industry somehow, well, there are opportunities for you to rent your home to actually be part of a film set. Alan Devlin has more on that.
A lot of people want to get in on the action and listing their locations for their homes or their businesses to be filmed in.
It's not just the film industry that can thrive in Atlanta.
It's just going skyrocket out the roof.
Everyday people like you and I can list our homes for filming and get paid to do it.
I think it's a win-win because not only do they get to monetize off of their home being utilized, they also get to be put up in a really nice hotel.
The process surprisingly simple. Log on to georgia.org and click on the link that takes you to something called Real Scout. Then you can upload photos and a description of your house online into a searchable database so productions can reach out and strike a deal with you if they're interested. The site also lists some ins and outs for creating a listing, like how to take the best photos and what productions are generally looking for.
You'd be surprised because every script is different and they pick their locations according to what that scene is for that script. It also depends on what the style of a house or something that they're looking for.
So the next big production could be right in your backyard or living room.
It's for normal, everyday working people who want to list their homes.
It sort of takes out a middleman and gets them what they need quicker.
Trey Baggerly describes himself as the go-to guy for directors and producers looking to shoot TV series or movies in Coweta County. After all, he's in charge of the local Camera Ready program. It means long before any actors come into town, Trey is in his office.
Yep, I know right where you are.
Fielding emails and calls from crews seeking potential film sites.
A lot of times I'll just jump in the car and they'll tell me what they want and I've got some ideas and we'll go look at it.
As a large county, Coweta's landscape offers vast opportunities.
On our western part of our county is very rural, horse farms, really pretty pastures. And then south and east, you've got small towns. You've got 5 or 6 old downtowns with the old main streets.
Both quaint and quite different from Atlanta, the area can transform. From adding the simple southern touch in Sweet Home, Alabama.
Look at you, all fancy.
To providing the intricate setting for Guardians of the Galaxy.
I guess we're stuck together.
They may come to me and say, we need a barn on a lake or a pond out in the middle of nowhere with big oak trees. I need a warehouse, I need an old home, and I'll try to help them find that.
Whether it's private properties like your home or public buildings, even setting prices and contracts, it's all organized in a constantly changing state directory. A way to help productions get what they need when they need it. Trey says his most popular location request, this historic Noonan Courthouse. The structure has been preserved for hundreds of years. Coweta is not alone in this local Camera Ready program. It exists in all 159 Georgia counties, a push that only came after state leaders advocated for more film incentives.
I don't know of other states that do it.
Hoping to make Georgia the Hollywood of the South.
It's definitely a big deal because you've got, like I said, you've got people on the ground who know the county and know a lot of the stuff that they are looking for.
As for Trey, he never gets to meet the stars, but he's one in his own right, making the magic happen.
People ask me, well, how'd you get to meet so-and-so? I said, no, I didn't meet them.
But I met the homeowners of the house.
Yeah, I know who owns that house.
Our Ciara Cummings with that report. Okay, so many locations here in Georgia have been the backdrop for many films, of course, and television series. My colleague Savannah Louie has more on that.
Horrifying moments in AMC's The Walking Dead. But fear hit historic downtown Sonoy before production even began on this street.
My being a new merchant on the street, that kind of scared me, terrified me at first, but it was such an experience.
Julie Brown, a former store owner, now happily operates Georgia Tour Company, bringing eager tourists.
They immediately scream, "Oh my gosh, I see it, I know this,"
to her hometown's iconic film locations.
This area that we're in is very prominent to that because you do see this contortionist coming down the stairs.
This 200-year-old home, a temporary set for The Walking Dead. Another element to its storied history, says homeowner Judy Beatty.
It's exciting to be part of it.
I'm just a little speck in the timeline.
I think it's been one of the better things that has happened recently for Georgia.
Just a few miles down the road, Joe Stansel owns about 100 acres of land where this cabin was specially built for the 2012 film Lawless.
Well, Mr. Bondrin, do I get the job?
The amount of detail that those craftspeople involved in the movie industry, what they went to make it happen.
The property also serving as a set for photo shoots and other productions, including CBS's MacGyver and The Walking Dead.
Inside this old mill, this is where the finale of The Walking Dead Season 2 was shot. Many of the tens of thousands of people who have visited this place have been moved to tears.
And just meters away, a waterfall you'll recognize in Warner Brothers and Oprah Winfrey's The Color Purple. Slated to hit theaters Christmas Day 2023.
They were great guests.
And I'm sure the paycheck doesn't hurt either.
And that didn't hurt my feelings either because we got to pay taxes.
On public property, a 10-minute drive to neighboring Fayette County, Stars Mill Waterfall in WandaVision, The Conjuring 3, and Sweet Home Alabama.
Peaceful, tranquil, get out there on the rocks. They can actually do some water scenes.
For the tens of thousands of superfans from all 7 continents drawn to the small town sites, a little surprise sparked at what the town offers beyond the backdrops.
A lot of folks are moving here. They're picking up their homes in California and Florida, and they're moving here and wanting to be a part of this.
In Sonoy, Savannah Louie, Atlanta News First.
All right, thanks so much to Savannah for that report from Sonoy. But now we want to actually go to Savannah, Georgia. Of course, it is becoming another booming hub in Georgia's booming film industry and the backdrop for many, many productions.
From blockbusters to art house, Ford vs. Ferrari to Forrest Gump, Savannah has been the backdrop for hundreds of films. Come along with me for a tour of some of the must-see movie spots. Starting off with one of the most iconic scenes filmed in Savannah, the bench that Forrest Gump sat on was here in Chippewa Square, but fans of the film might notice something's missing. Where's the bench? It can be found here at the Savannah History Museum. After the movie wrapped up filming, one of the prop benches was donated to the museum, where you can still see it in its full glory today. While Savannah is a background in most movies, the city plays a key role in Midnight in the Garden of Good and Evil, a Savannah novel that was brought to the silver screen in 1997. Readers of the book may remember the Bird Girl statue on the cover, which was also featured in the film. And although she used to call Bonaventure Cemetery her home, she moved to the Telfair Academy, where you can learn all about her today.
Bird Girl is essentially Telfair's unofficial mascot. So we welcome people from all around the world to come and experience her and sit with her.
Although its wide sidewalks and overhanging lights are enough to bring people from across the land, Broughton Street once brought visitors from undersea, being transformed into a beach town for the second SpongeBob movie. This wasn't the only time that Savannah's historic district was transformed. 2019's Lady and the Tramp remake completely changed the time period of the city. It also brought in over $50 million for Savannah. Savannah's historic district isn't the only place that undergoes transformations. Tybee Island is also known to change. The island's beaches and shops were at the heart of 2010's The Last Song. In fact, a whole wedding chapel on the island was built for the movie, and it remains in operation today. Another island in the area that has appeared on screen is Hutchinson Island, which is a stand-in for France in Ford vs. Ferrari. The island actually has a racing history where a 10-turn race course used to host the Savannah Speed Classic and other races. From the Bird Girl statue to choosing a box of chocolates, Savannah continues to be a popular choice for filming in Georgia. Reporting from Savannah, Ryan Tismaneski, Atlanta News First.
And obviously that's bringing, of course, so many jobs to the area as well. But what is the history really of film production? Let's look at it in a larger context and kind of the nuts and bolts of how it all works. Alan Devlin has that.
Let's take a walk through history, shall we?
Is there any way that you could reach him? Yes.
The film industry in Georgia has come a long way since it first started in the 1970s. And we sure didn't start here.
Run, Forrest! Run!
Or here.
Morning, Miss Daisy.
You leave my flower bed alone.
Or here.
Where are you going, city boy? We'll find it.
Well, let's go to the start of it, which is delivery.
Yup, that's it. According to many industry experts far and wide, the 1972 American thriller Deliverance was the film that put the Georgia film industry on the map. So I swung by an iconic spot in Georgia film, the Silver Skillet in Midtown.
I was listing out places we could do this interview, and I listed the Silver Skillet. And you're like, let's go to the Silver Skillet. It's basically my second home.
And met with a man who's been involved in the business since the beginning.
Really and truly.
And who knows all about it.
Deliverance. Talk to me about that movie, the production, and the aftermath of having a movie like that catch fire.
So what it really did is it said, we want to Los Angeles, to the filmmakers, it said, we want you here. Number one. Number two, it said we can make this work for you.
The river riding film starring John Voight and Burt Reynolds, along with others, details the trip of some Atlanta businessmen canoeing down a river up in North Georgia and running into some not-so-friendly locals. That river, the Chattooga. Those locals, Rabun County's own.
If I lived in Rabun County at the time, I might have had some raised eyebrows about suggesting that you film this here. But the community said, no, let's give it a shot. And that was important. The idea that they said, we're willing to work with you, big deal.
My name is Jimmy Carter.
And after that movie erupted into the national spotlight, Governor Jimmy Carter was the one that said, wait a minute, we could have something here, forming the state's film commission to build on Deliverance's success.
It was about jobs, pure and simple. It was pretty small, but it was infant, but everybody was very eager, very willing to work together and to work hard to try and get something done. And look where we are now.
And because of that river riding thriller and a little help from a peanut farmer, the Hollywood of the South pressed play.
Never know what you're doing here.
And the rest is history. Alan Devlin, Atlanta News First.
Absolutely, and it has absolutely become the Hollywood of the South. Someone who knows more about this than perhaps anyone, I should say, than most people would be Lee Thomas. Lee Thomas is the director of the Georgia Film Office. Let's listen to our interview with Lee Thomas.
The film industry is booming here in Georgia. With the opening of Assembly Studios, more movies and TV shows will be filmed here in the Peach State.
Yeah, we already have a lot, right?
Yeah.
So let's talk about it. Joining us this morning, we have Lee Thomas. She is the director for the Georgia Film Office. So, gosh,
Good morning.
It's such an exciting time. We're glad you're here with us. Now, it's exciting for a lot of reasons because we're, of course, celebrating Assembly. The Georgia Film Office is celebrating 50 years.
That's right. That's right.
It's fun to be in Georgia.
I know. It's amazing. Jimmy Carter started our office back in 1973. So, yeah, we're in our 50th year right now. Very exciting.
What makes Georgia so attractive to the movie studios, people that make these productions?
You know, Georgia has everything going for it. So we have a great incentive that has been very stable that the legislature put in 2008. We have, diverse locations. So you think about, we have mountains and coastline and big cities and small towns. We have the world's busiest airport so people can travel in and out easily, a temperate climate. Lots of crew and lots of infrastructure, amazing infrastructure that's been built here. Okay. So everything together.
Yeah. So let's talk about the numbers because this really impacts all of us because it impacts our economy. So how much money does it really pump in every year?
Yeah, it's amazing. So this last year, and part of this year has been in a strike or two strikes, right. But we did $4.1 billion, and that's direct spend. Wow. That's not even an economic impact number. But, if you looked at, the first 35 years of the film office, we did $1.1 billion in the first 35 years. And then last year we did 4.1.
Wow.
So it's really taken off.
Yeah.
Any big productions in the works? I mean, we know that the actor strike is still going on. The writers have settled. But is there anything you could share with us that we could be excited about?
Well, we're very excited, to have everybody get back to work. I know everybody's ready. We're waiting for those episodic shows that, people are looking forward to, like Stranger Things Season 5 and Will Trent. And, of course, we always have Marvel, returning. So it's exciting.
Yeah.
We're ready for it.
I know it's a lot of hush-hush secrets. You can't give away a lot of the stuff. But that's cool. Okay, so then it's not just the entertainment industry that gets impacted when these big movies come here. It really has a domino effect across the state. So can you talk about that?
Sure, yeah. I mean, you know, there's the people that are paid that you think about, crew people and actors, but then there's all of these support service companies. You know, lumber yards in South Georgia are getting the benefit, and then they get carpet from North Georgia, and then caterers and landscapers, hotels and restaurants. I mean, it really trickles out throughout the economy, so it really helps everybody. So we're ready to get back on it.
Well, we're excited, and you mentioned the infrastructure. We're glad that Assembly is going to be a part of that and provide space to these companies that want to come and make movies and television shows here in Georgia. Thank you so much for coming in, Lee Thomas from the Georgia Film Office. We really appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
That was Lee Thomas joining us at Assembly Atlanta. We've covered a lot of the impact that is going to happen from a project like this. Assembly Atlanta, 135 acres of an immersive state-of-the-art studio, bringing to life job opportunity, film opportunity. But right now I want to talk a little bit about the history of film here in Georgia. Very important to look in the past as we work towards a more hopeful future. Here's Patrick Quinn with where Doraville started as the historical General Motors assembly plant stood at the heart of the community, and the future Assembly Atlanta taking over that space today.
Hank Bird started working at the General Motors plant in Doraville in 1977, 30 years after it opened. He was 19. But Hank persevered. He kept at it. Honestly, he said, because they paid a lot.
I was supporting my family and making a better life for us.
Hank would go on to work at GM for 32 years, one of thousands who clocked in making the American automobile. And throughout the metal, tires, pistons, and paint grew friendships and families. Amidst the spark plugs, sometimes there were sparks, and on occasion, romance. This is Chuck and Carol Eitzen, now living in Duluth. Married in 1979, still married today. Yes, they met while working together at GM Doraville. Oh, and the best man? That's Rick Hurd. He also worked there. The Doraville plant at I-285 and Buford Highway produced 9.5 million cars from 1947 until it closed in September 2008.
Building Monte Carlos and Chevelles when I first started, and when we ended, when we closed the plant, we were building the minivan. We were building soccer mom vans.
We built 528 cars per shift typically, and the line can't stop.
Catrice Hatton started in the body shop around the time Hank was retiring. She didn't know Hank. She also didn't know cars. Coming from telecommunications, her tie to GM was her dad, who worked there, and it gave her a path up into management.
It was the American dream. It's definitely the American dream that I grew up with. Definitely.
Catrice stayed 4 years, a short stint compared to most of her colleagues, but she admits it was a formative pit stop.
I'm so glad that I can say that I had been there, and I'm a better person because of it.
Shortly after Catrice left, the plant closed in 2008. After 32 years, Hank retired. He says his joints are worn, his hands weathered. These days, he's traded in gear shifts and gaskets for a guitar. Hank now travels the Southeast with his band. He's got that forever knack for fine-tuning. For decades in Doraville, inside the GM plant, there were ups, plenty of downs, and along the assembly line, men, women, black, white, young, and old building cars, and an unforgettable community.
You're bonded around things like quality, throughput, and just the overall success of keeping the place open.
You know, I just feel I was extremely blessed to be able to work for a company like that.
And we are joined with Michael Coles. He's an author, film historian, very deeply involved in the Georgia film community here, and we're so lucky to have him on with us. Michael, just making sure you can hear me. We are live here on Atlanta News First Plus.
I hear you fine. I hope you can hear me.
Fantastic. I know we tried to have you on yesterday. We had some technical difficulties, so I'm really glad that we were able to join here today to talk about the history of film, so important to Georgia and Georgia's history. Our reporter Patrick Quinn briefly touched upon this. Then Governor Jimmy Carter at the time, heavily involved in the beginning of film here in Georgia and really what we recognize as today, the Hollywood of the South. With your own involvement in looking back at this moment in history, take me back to before Carter era and the beginning years of film in Georgia, the spots that we started to see.
Well, Jimmy Carter has never been given enough credit for actually starting the Film Commission, and there's always been some disagreement as to whether Georgia was first or maybe New Mexico was first, but certainly Georgia was one of the very first film commissions in the United States. It all happened through the movie Deliverance that was done in 1973. And Jimmy Carter went up to where the movie was being shot and looked around like a lot of people, didn't realize the amount of jobs that came with that kind of production, and realized these were high-paying jobs, no environmental impact. It touched so many other industries, restaurants, car rentals, on and on and on. And he realized that this was a big opportunity for Georgia. And remember, Georgia was a lot different in 1973 than it is today. And he felt like this could be a real boom for the state in a lot of different ways, not just with economic impact, but also the amount of attention it would bring to Georgia. And he felt that it would also bring other jobs and industries that would come to the state. And so the Georgia Film Commission was formed. And I believe Ed Spivey was at that time the first executive director of the Film Commission, and it took off. And then other states obviously began to realize what impact the movie industry could have in their own states. And so film commissions started popping up all over the country, and it became very competitive. And truthfully, after Carter left office as governor, the other governors really, frankly, didn't pay that much attention to it. And I'm sure, I don't know my history. My history was that in 1999, Governor Barnes appointed me to take over and become the film commissioner for the state and form a board and try to really resurrect the industry, because we had fallen from grace. I mean, we had been probably number 3 or 4 at one point, and we were probably 10 or 12 at the time that I took over and put together this incredible board to rebuild this industry.
And I'm glad you mentioned that. You know, we're talking now 50 years later since the opening of the commission and your involvement in that part of history. This was such a new concept and a vision, and Deliverance set so much confidence in bringing that to life. What are some of the conversations that you were having as you were taking this leap of faith and moving us into this future of film that we recognize today?
Well, Greg Torrey was the executive director when I took over and was a terrific, just a fantastic guy. Lee Thomas, who followed him, worked as well. And I think one of the reasons we succeeded was honestly because I didn't know anything about the business. I mean, I just plunged ahead. If I probably knew too much, I probably wouldn't have been able to get our board excited and get them energized to do what we needed to get done. The roadblock was that we just had fallen from the kind of incentive other states were offering. We didn't have infrastructure like other states had. But we did have one thing, and I remember meeting with Greg, and we were talking about the kind of films that were now being done. It was mostly civil rights stuff. Occasionally we get some other movie. Robert Redford was filming a movie down in Savannah. But the bottom line was we had to really get out and study and figure out what it was going to take to really get the business back on track. And during my tenure as film commissioner, we got the first tax incentive plan passed in the state of Georgia. We wrote the second one, which has been improved upon since. I left the office, 4 years after I started, and then that second incentive plan actually came into effect the year after I left, and it's just been, I think when I got there, we had about 170 million in economic impact for the film industry, but most of that, frankly, was music. And when I left after that first tax incentive, we were over $1 billion, and today, it's 10, $12 billion. It's amazing what's happened.
You actually are spot on. It is $12 billion, which from where we started in this short amount of time is just massive and significant to think about. What do you think is the significance of film for so many of us that connect to it on a deep and personal level, and how it plays out in economic impact and cultural and societal impact?
Well, the one thing I didn't mention, and the one thing that Georgia really had back in '99, and the reason that we continued to get at least some films, we had the phenomenal airport that we have today, then and now. And so it made it very easy for film crews to come in, producers, directors, to be able to come into Georgia and then also be able to go home. But the thing that people don't realize, when you make a movie or you may have a television series in anywhere around the state, it affects everything, and it's clean. It's a clean industry. It's the highest paying jobs that I know of any industry, even from an entry level standpoint. And so it affects restaurants, it affects car rentals, hotels. And so one of the things that we had to do as we were talking about rebuilding it, we had to go around the state and educate communities about why this industry was so important. And part of the reason we did that is we wanted pressure put on legislators, frankly, to pass that first incentive. We wanted them to know that if they went home, they were going to have some very angry constituents. So I traveled the state for months, flying all over the state, going to Rotary clubs, Chamber of Commerce's, and talking about the impact of the film industry and what benefits it could provide for communities, especially communities that were, losing industries and losing jobs. And this was a way for them to get a lot of that revenue back and get those jobs back.
You've had a lasting impact on film here in Georgia and really across the country through your time in public office as commissioner. Hearing the future that's taking hold today, the development of a project like Assembly Atlanta, taking over the former General Motors assembly plant in Doraville, creating jobs, creating this immersive space for livable housing and retail, and so many opportunities for more film to come. What goes through your head?
Well, I remember sitting in an ideation meeting with our board, and I remember somebody saying this, and it wasn't me. And one of the things that I will say about this is that there were 40 dedicated people on this board that really wanted to see this industry come back. And one of the people in the room said, what Georgia's got to be able to be, we can no longer just be a receiver of this business. We've got to be a beacon. We've got to find a way to send out the message about how great Georgia is to do business. And that began the beginning of how we had sought to transform what Georgia was doing. What's happening with this new studio, honestly, was one of the big dreams that was laid out just in that ideation meeting. It would be a place that would have retail, it would have housing, it would have this phenomenal studio, editing, all of the things that have all come to pass. It is mind-boggling, frankly, for me, and it's so incredible to see that what we were able to do in those 4 years and how it's grown and the impact that it continues to have today. Frankly, I've been very fortunate in being involved in a number of businesses, but there's no doubt this is the thing I'm the most proud of in my own career.
And as we look to the future with Assembly Atlanta, what do you have to say to film projects out there, businesses that are looking to Georgia now, recognizing it as a major film landscape and a space for them, and wanting to make that move to invest here?
Well, look, I'll tell you what, it's the same message I think that we delivered in 1999 through 2003. This is an incredible place to do business. It's an incredible place to make movies. We have today incredible infrastructure, some of the most talented people in the industry, people who come to Georgia and have ever done any production here have always wanted to come back. I had a meeting early on with Robert Redford back when he was about to make The Legend of Bagger Vance down in Savannah. And one of the questions, because this is what I have had to learn, I asked him, there's other places where you could make this movie. What is it about Georgia? And he simply said to me, I love coming to Georgia. He said, the people here are fantastic. They're hardworking, creative. And he said, we just have a great time whenever we come here to make any kind of a movie. And I think that has just held true all these years. And it's just been made even better by the kind of infrastructure that has been created. But the talent in this state, there's no state, and it's proven by what's happened here. There's no state that can provide this amount of talent and this kind of infrastructure and locations that can look like almost any place in the world. You can come to Georgia and film the Sahara Desert, the Grand Canyon, New York City. There's not many places where you can go and have all of that and not have to leave the state to make those kind of movies.
You've moved me, Michael. Thank you so much for your contributions, for continuing to be an advocate for film here in Georgia and being involved in the future. We've come a long way since 1973, since the vision that then Governor Jimmy Carter had, the vision that you had, and so many others. As we look to the future, we're going to continue to look at the past. And coming up here, we're going to take a little commercial break, but we're going to talk more about the history, specifically the tax incentives and how that move legislatively changed everything for Georgia. We'll be right back.
Severe weather. Atlanta's no stranger to it. Power outages, flooded streets, hail damage. We've seen it all.
That's why Atlanta News First has the largest team of meteorologists in the entire Southeast to keep watch over your street so no neighborhood is left in the dark.
7 meteorologists giving you first alerts no matter where you are.
Days before a drop hits the ground, hours before the first rumble of thunder.
To keep you ready for anything, this is why we first alert.
This is your home for Atlanta TV.
Do not overtalk. What we toasted to?
Life.
That is glistening, by the way.
Beautiful?
Wow.
He put my whole hand in his mouth. If I was a cougar, trust me, tall glass of water would have been going home with me.
Are you a man with 2 chicks and you ain't having fun?
At all.
Yes, yes.
This is my diva dish.
You can't sing anymore, Anthony. What would you do? This.
It's all local and it's all Atlanta. Only on Atlanta's own Peachtree TV.
It's a problem every night on Atlanta roads. Drivers without lights. Now you see me, now you don't. So why does it keep happening? Atlanta News First investigates, exposing a fault in many cars that's leaving drivers in the dark. It's not careless, they have no idea. Scan this code to go directly to the story and learn why every night drivers are risking it all with lights out.
Welcome back to Atlanta News First Plus. We are continuing our coverage of Assembly Atlanta, leading up in a couple days on Friday, the big unveiling, Assembly Atlanta, coming to life from Doraville as we take you into the future and all of the potential for film with this immersive 250,000 square foot space. We talk about Assembly Atlanta, we focus in on the theme, past, present, and future. A big part of all of this is looking to the past and honoring it. The current location of Assembly Atlanta used to be the General Motors assembly plant in Doraville, the community of Doraville building itself around that plant, and that plant on its own bringing so many jobs, opportunities, and housing to Doraville as it built itself up as a city. That closure of the assembly plant in 2008 devastated so many, and now here we are talking about the creation of Assembly Atlanta and an immersive space for hundreds and thousands of people, both in job creation, in housing opportunity, and building up Doraville, where she was headed all those years ago. As I mentioned, right before we went to commercial, we spoke with historian, former commissioner Michael Coles, as he talked about the beginning days of film here in Georgia 50 years ago, 1973. Then Governor Jimmy Carter having a vision for what film could be here in Georgia, the opening of the first Georgia Film Office, and the creation of so many blockbusters and classics that you all love filmed right here in the Peach State. A big move and a big part of that, as our Rachel Polanski will explain here in a moment, was the Georgia Legislative Panel reviewing state tax incentives and investing in the decision to incentivize filmmaking here in Georgia. Here's Rachel Polanski with more.
Action! Georgia has been working to entice TV and movie producers since 2005, when former Governor Sonny Perdue signed a generous tax incentive program. Marker. Since then, the tax credit for production companies has only increased, now up to 20%, with an extra 10% if the film includes the Made in Georgia logo in the credits.
Let's do this. In Georgia, they've kept it going, and they've committed to it through different administrations.
Senator Donzella James wants to keep things exactly as they are, saying if it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Tax credits encourage them to move here, and we want to keep them here because it's not just for the film. Everything from catering and hairstylists and makeup artists to film the ones who build the sets.
And in fiscal year 2023, 390 productions were filmed in the Peach State, with $4.1 billion in direct spending going into Georgia's economy.
So I think it's a win-win for the state of Georgia.
But not everyone agrees. Senator Chuck Hufstedler says offering tax incentives is useful when developing a new industry, but he says it makes less sense to continue pouring money into a mature industry like film and television.
It will be looked at for how can we get a program that is a little bit closer to breaking even for the state of Georgia when we send this money to them.
And right now, he says the state's film tax credit is costing every household in the state about $300 per year.
So we've got to get a little bit better control of it and not have a unlimited program, that puts us at risk.
In 2022, Senator Hofstadler proposed capping the film tax credit at $900 million per year.
House Bill 1437, all references to movie and film
but his legislation did not make it out of the Senate.
Has been eliminated from this bill.
This year, he doesn't know if he'll propose a cap again, but he will try and make some modifications to the current program.
Let's see it.
There's no way to tell how things will play out, but his plans are sure to be met with some opposition.
And that joint House and Senate panel, which is currently reviewing all of the state's tax incentives, is expected to issue recommendations in January, just as the legislative session kicks off. Of course, we'll be watching closely. Reporting in Atlanta, Rachel Polanski, Atlanta News First.
And that was our Rachel Polanski taking a look at both sides of the issue as we talk about film tax credits and incentivizing filmmaking here in the Peach State. Two sides to that issue, by the way. There is the desire to entice production companies to bring business to Georgia, much needed business, but also the opponents that say it could cost taxpayers hundreds of dollars a year. Our Doug Reardon took a look at the lobbying efforts behind tax film credits.
We're at Athena Studios in Athens, Georgia, and this is stage one.
One of Georgia's newest sound stages. Randy Davidson, CEO of Georgia Entertainment News, shows us around. Even outside of Metro Atlanta, the film industry, he says, is stoking the state's economy.
Hotels, caterers, lawyers, professionals, all sorts of people are involved in production.
It's all thanks to a 30% tax credit offered to production companies in Georgia, one of the most generous in the nation. In 2022, it generated over $4 billion of economic investment in the state and added an estimated 59,000 jobs.
It's the jobs that Georgians want. It's the jobs that we can have here, where they can stay here, raise families here, and thrive in Georgia.
But on Tuesday, just down the road from Athena Studios, lawmakers put the credit under the microscope. Some feel it's not fair to offer such lucrative benefits to one industry without offering it to others.
It is vibrant, it's grown in Georgia, but we have to say what's fair to everybody. There's other businesses that can grow too.
It's something lawmakers have vowed to revisit when the legislative session starts in January. Davidson said any reduction or capping of the film credit would be irresponsible, especially with so much investment recently in new studios like Athena in Athens and Assembly Studios in Doraville, a production hub owned by this station's parent company. He's seen the negative impacts to other states that have ditched the credits like Louisiana and North Carolina and doesn't want the same for Georgia.
We invested in it years ago, and now we're looking at something where we're the lead in. We have a well-threaded economy because we have a creative economy, which other states are dying to get. I would say let's continue to grow this responsibly in the state of Georgia.
Doug Reardon, Atlanta News First.
And that was our Doug Reardon bringing you that report. A lot of sides to this and filmmaking here in Georgia, trickling down into opportunity not only for filmmakers but for businesses, for economic boom here in the state. As we talk about this, we had a chance this morning on Atlanta News First to talk to some of the visionaries behind Assembly Atlanta and people that had this idea and really put into work bringing it to life to what we recognize it as today. Here's Brandon Reese with Motion Picture Association talking a little bit about Georgia's rich film history and the potential for the future.
Well, this morning we are celebrating the completion of Assembly, a state-of-the-art movie and TV studio complex here in Doraville. And joining us here this morning is Brandon Reese, who is with the Motion Picture Association of America. He's the Vice President of State Government Affairs for the Southeast region. Thanks very much for being here. Good morning.
Thank you for having me, Rick. It's a pleasure to be here at Assembly.
So this is an exciting time for Gray Television, the owner of Atlanta News First. A facility like this for the Motion Picture Association of America, what's the significance of that?
This is going to be a state-of-the-art facility, as you said. I've heard Mr. Howell say it's going to be the finest facility in the world, and I don't put that past him. This is going to be another great attraction for major film productions in the state of Georgia. And our members, Disney, Netflix, Sony, Paramount Pictures, Universal Pictures, and Warner Brothers are very, very excited about it.
So you are representing the sort of a trade association for all of the major studios that create this programming and then distribute it around the country and around the world. Here in Georgia, I know you've also been very involved with helping to create an atmosphere, an environment where those studios want to come and do business here in our state. And there's been some discussion about the tax credit that has been credited with helping to sort of stir up that business. Is there any chance that credit's going to go away?
So, Rick, you're right. The Motion Picture Association is the leading advocate for the film, the television, and the streaming industry across the world. But we do have a major focus here in Georgia. And we, along with Assembly, are members of the Georgia Screen Entertainment Coalition, who spends a lot of time at the Capitol working with elected officials who designed this program to do exactly what it's doing, and that's drawing in television and major film productions into the state.
So for some lawmakers who say maybe it's time to scale back this tax credit and not be as generous as we've been, you would say?
In the state legislature and affiliated groups like the Georgia Department of Economic Development, we want to be able to protect this program, like I said, that has been an unqualified success. From time to time, you do hear these rumors about big changes coming to shrink the program, but we want Georgia to be as well positioned as anyone else in the whole world to welcome back film productions once the strikes that you guys have done a great job covering are behind us.
Brandon Reese with the Motion Picture Association of America. Thanks very much for being here. Nice to meet you.
Rick.
And that was our anchor, Rick Folbaum, live from Assembly Atlanta. If you weren't aware, we are bringing you live coverage of the latest top stories, developing news in your community out of Assembly Atlanta. I'm going to take you out here. You just saw it a second ago. This is our current set, our news set, where we are bringing you your top stories, your newscasts, all your favorite familiar faces, our afternoon and evening crew, morning crew coming on. And if you were with us this morning, Brooks Baptiste and Courtney Jacobazi actually joined us here on Atlanta News First Plus to walk you through some of the excitement that is building up live from the site at the Assembly. We wanted to do our newscasts here just as a way to highlight this massive project and this undertaking. Again, 250,000 square feet dedicated to television and film production needs, and long-term plans to create accessible parts of this complex to the public so that you can take a walk down and take in all of the building and the dedication that went into building 135 acres of opportunity here, not just for filmmaking, but for retail, for livable housing, and really a move to revitalize Doraville. The former General Motors assembly plant in Doraville was really central to the community, creating hundreds of jobs and supporting small businesses. This is a small business community, a population of about 10,000 people, that assembly plant being so near and dear to the Doraville people. When it shut down in 2008, it was a devastating moment. I mean, so much job loss, so many surrounding businesses that were affected, and homes, families feeling that attention. Now, looking to the future, Assembly Atlanta building up in that space. And assembly, by the way, that part of this word being really a tribute to the past while also calling to the future, honoring the assembly plant that was the General Motors plant, but also calling to everyone to have a chance to assemble, to come together and take in this space and what it means for filmmaking here in Georgia, but really for the people of Atlanta and its future. As we continue our coverage here, I want to show you some more of these wonderful pictures and video that we have ahead of the big unveiling happening this Friday. As you can see, a lot of space being taken up with film studios, warehouses, offices, retail space, and this brick buildings actually will serve as a significant creating New Orleans style streetscapes, Brooklyn style brownstones, European style cityscapes, and so many more of your favorite locations coming to life in great detail. I think yesterday we caught our Atlanta News First anchor Gravir Dinza actually on Atlanta News First, and she said she was standing at Assembly Atlanta, and she around a set that looked to be like New York City, and she said she really couldn't tell the difference. The detail was so well put together. It was like standing in NYC all over again, and that's part of the vision that so many, like our CEO Hilton Howell had, so many of the crew that put in the work to build this space up. And as our Adam Murphy will tell you, the goal with all of this, not just building up a space for filmmaking, but really revitalizing Doraville and giving back to that community.
In the city of Doraville, there is a hustle and bustle of traffic on Buford Highway at 285. But if you spend any time here, you'll quickly realize something is missing.
Really, Doraville grew up around that GM plant, so when it left, that was a major loss for us.
Doraville Mayor Joseph Garman said life changed here when the General Motors plant shut down 15 years ago. Hundreds of jobs vanished, and so did the people, leaving a gaping hole in the heart of the city.
There was actually a lot of business that was lost.
Justin Tate is the general manager of Baldino's Sandwich Shop in town. He said his store lost about 40% of its lunch business after the closure of the GM plant.
There were people that would come in and say, hey, you know, This is probably my last time coming here. I'm no longer working across the street.
Now, for the first time in more than a decade, there is a new heartbeat that will soon bring opportunities and life back to Doraville.
But I do think property values are going to go up, and we will see increased revenue based on that.
Great Television's new development, Assembly Atlanta, will bring a new live, work, and play Studio City to the old GM site, giving new businesses in town a sense of hope.
We're just looking forward to more foot traffic, economic growth, new jobs, etc. I mean, it's just a win-win for everybody.
But I think the Assembly is going to offer a lot of new opportunity and growth, and we're really excited about it.
The mayor told me that Assembly Atlanta is expected to generate more than 3,500 new jobs, more than making up for the 800 or so that were lost. The heartbeat is back and the future is bright here in Doraville. At Assembly Atlanta, Adam Murphy, Atlanta News First.
Busy bee out in the community reporting, and I wanted to bring you on here to talk about Doraville. You know, we talk a lot about Assembly Atlanta, but this is a big moment for Doraville herself.
Yeah, it is. When you think about it, Doraville is actually a very small community. 3.5 square miles make up the city of Doraville. But you have a lot of restaurants. You do have a lot of retail in that very small area. And, you know, they took a significant hit. You heard me talk about that. There were 800 plus jobs that went away about 15 years ago when that GM plant actually shut down. It was a cost-cutting measure. That's why they closed the plant. And as a result, the impact was significant on many of the businesses in the community, and they really struggled. I mean, Baldino's Subs, if you've been into Doraville, that's an iconic spot, really good sandwich shop. They lost 40% of their lunch crowd. I mean, it's unimaginable if you think you're a business owner and you're going to lose half your business when a plant like that shuts down, losing 800 and so jobs. I mean, how do you survive? But they did, and many of these businesses hung on by a thread. Then they dealt with, of course, everything that came along with COVID. So this is going to be just a great rebirth for the city of Doraville. They're going to see more than double the jobs come back. I mean, we're talking 3,500, 4,000 jobs that will return as a result of Assembly Atlanta alone. It's significant, and everybody there is excited. And in addition to what's happening on ground, or on site there at Assembly Atlanta, you're also seeing many condos going up in the area near Assembly Atlanta, right at 285 and 141 or Peachtree Industrial. And it's just an exciting time for many of the businesses, many of the residents. Property taxes are expected to go up. So this is a win-win all the way around, and something that really puts Doraville on the map. Assembly Atlanta is doing just that.
And one thing that you highlighted that I loved is you actually talked to these Doraville community members, these small businesses, these people that are going to feel the impact the most, because we want to put those voices on and talk to them and see how they feel. And there was a lot of excitement for what this future has and the possibilities that come with it. Well, I mean, like I said, you talk about these businesses sort of hanging on after the GM plant left, then COVID. I mean, that was a real difficult time for any business, especially a small business owner. And now it's like the Super Bowl has come to town and it's going to stay. Can you imagine the money that's going to be generated in the community as a result of many of these big productions that will come to Assembly Atlanta? And so when these people come to town, they need a place to stay. They need other restaurants to go to. Sure, they're going to be catered there at Assembly Atlanta, when they're on set. But there are times where they want to get out and they want to explore the city of Doraville and what it has to offer. So businesses are no doubt going to benefit, and so are the residents that live there. I mean, there's a small area of residential properties, but those properties are going to get a boost because they're going to see their, property values go up. There's going to be more tax dollars generated in the community, more money to improve roads and other public services in Doraville. So just an all-around win-win. And Adam, you are a longtime Atlanta journalist, a longtime Atlanta resident for that matter. For those that aren't too familiar with Doraville, it is a small community after all, about 10,000 people live there. What should they know about this town? I mean, it's already such a big deal that Assembly Atlanta is bringing a future for film here, but for these community members, what are some things that people who aren't familiar with this area, what should they know about the people of Doraville?
Well, the people of Doraville are good people. It's got this small town feel, but it's in such a thriving area and a big area because you're right there at 285 and Peachtree Industrial Boulevard, okay, not far from Spaghetti Junction. So while you have this city that's 3.5 square miles, I mean, it's small, and there's a small town feel and great southern hospitality. At the same time, you have everything you need in this community. And with Assembly Atlanta, it just brings more to the community. And so they're in a great location. I mean, if you live or work in Atlanta, you've driven by Peachtree Industrial Boulevard at 285. We all know it, where the old GM plant used to be, and now Assembly Atlanta is going up. And so it's very convenient to get to. It's a great spot to visit. You get the small town feel I talked about, plus all of the amenities that a big town would have, because you're right there on 285 at 141 or Peachtree Industrial Boulevard, as most refer to it. And I think it's just going to be a great thing. I think what's neat is when we have these big productions that come to town and they're going to come in and produce movies at Assembly Atlanta, they're going to get a small town southern hospitality feel, as well as having all of the resources they need to make some of the greatest films that are going to ever be made right there in Doraville.
And Adam, you are also our restaurant report card go-to. You know all the best spots. You know the spots that need some improvement from time to time. For Doraville, you are actually highlighting a restaurant report card in the area of Assembly Atlanta. Can you tell us a sneak peek about what you're working on this week?
Sure, we're doing this because it is Assembly Week, and we want to give you a sneak peek of what's going on in the city of Doraville. First, we're going to introduce you to a very prime, big-time catering company that actually services those production crews and those actors and filmmakers that come into town, and they take care of those individuals in that community when they are producing some of the great films that are going to be made here in the Atlanta area. Also, in addition to that, we want to introduce you to some really special, unique hot spots, places you want to go if you visit Doraville. So if you're in the area, you want to check out Assembly Atlanta as it begins to thrive. You'll also know exactly where you might want to go to dine. We're going to tell you about the best places in Doraville that you and I can dine at, and you get to see firsthand how these production crews and filmmakers and actors and actresses get to dine as well when they're on set. So it's going to be a lot of fun. I'll give you that much, and I'll tell you, boy, that's good, because it's going to be great.
We're so excited to see that. We'll highlight it here on Atlanta News First Plus. We know you'll have that restaurant report card for us on Atlanta News First on our newscast hours. I just want to say, for those of you that haven't checked out a restaurant report card yet, we have all of the must-watch moments from Adam Murphy on our website, atlantanewsfirst.com, and check out our Instagram, because you are all across town very clearly passionate about the report cards you bring to us and highlighting all the great community restaurants that we have to check out.
Yeah, Maria, we've started an Instagram post that we do every single week. It's really cool. It's an Instagram video that I produce and put together at the restaurant that we're showcasing. So you get like 25 seconds of thrill, you know, from the favorite restaurant of the week that scores a 100 and wins our golden spatula. So we'll be doing that as well this week, and you can see that pop up on our Instagram page, Atlanta News First. You should definitely watch those. They're a lot of fun and give you great ideas. And the restaurant report card segment, of course, airs every Thursday at 5 o'clock on Atlanta News First, and then 10 o'clock Thursday night on Peachtree TV.
Adam, thank you so much. I know I got to head out the door. I appreciate you jumping on and talking with us.
My pleasure. Enjoyed it.
All right. And speaking of which, a restaurant report card, one of my favorite segments that we do here at Atlanta News First. Adam Murphy has been doing it for years. He's very passionate about highlighting businesses that are worth a mention, that are doing a spectacular job serving their customers, bringing their own cuisine to life, and creating enjoyable moments for so many restaurant goers, but also checking in with those businesses that just need that extra push to make some improvements and turn it around. So it's a really positive report, a chance to highlight local business here in Georgia, and this week we're highlighting Assembly Atlanta and the food businesses that are going to be making all of the people that will be serving Assembly Atlanta, the filmmakers, the office users, the right now construction workers, some of our Atlanta News First crew, but everybody that needs to have the fuel to make your favorite worlds come to life on the big screen. They are going to need those restaurants and those local businesses in Doraville are there to make it happen. So we have a fun segment coming up. If you'll stick around with us here on Atlanta News First Plus, we'll be doing a little quizzing you on some of the most well-known movies and whether or not they've been shot here in Atlanta. So tune in here in just a couple minutes. But first, I want to kick it over to Abby Kasouras, who took a trip down to Doraville and talked to some of these community members that are looking at Assembly Atlanta and really sharing their own excitement for the job creation that's to come for this community.
Largest production studio took countless hours of hard work. All of the steel was fabricated right here in Scottsdale, Georgia. 13,000 pieces, 12,000 tons, enough to fill 600 trucks. Every beam, truss, and column was created here at Steel LLC. Each piece is carried by overhead cranes to conveyors to saw and drill lines before getting a fresh coat of paint. Robert Miller is one of 150 employees working overtime to make the project happen.
We got to put everything on there and clean it up, paint it, and get it out of here.
After decades of work, he says the assembly project is one of the biggest he's been a part of.
I'll tell my kids, hey, your daddy was proud of that.
The company has been in business since 1947, working on the World of Coke Museum and Falcon Stadium, but Rob Williams says the assembly project put them on the map.
It really just having a steady flow of work for such a long time frame, you know, it's a good sense of job security for everybody.
At a time when work was drying up, they were adding workers. More than 1,000 construction jobs were added for the project, and job creation doesn't stop there. Third Rail Studios and Assembly expect 4,000 freelance jobs, including production crews, operators, and extras.
This is the best place in the world to become an actor.
You might recognize Brian Beagle from the film We Are Marshall. The actor is now a casting director.
The movies here are huge now, so the opportunities are a lot bigger as well.
Background actors average more than $17 an hour. Being cast as an extra could catapult you into stardom.
It doesn't matter if you have never done anything in this industry at all. There's an avenue or a way to get into it and to learn your way and find your way.
The jobs here will be good paying jobs, averaging $86,000 a year. In Atlanta, I'm Abby Kasouras.
All right, and that was our Abby Kasouras taking you out to Doraville and talking a little bit about the job creation. I mean, doubling that of what the General Motors assembly plant brought, creating an exciting future for not only Doraville, surrounding communities, and overall the Peach State, an economic boost, a much needed one at that. As I promised, we are going to do a fun little game. Can you tell me which of these movies were shot in Georgia and which weren't? Let's start with this one.
Maybe you just need someone watching your back. Hi.
At some point, we all have to choose between what the world wants you to be and who you are. I made my choice.
Do you recognize it? That is none other than Ant-Man, followed up by Black Widow. Both common theme. They are Marvel movies, and they were shot right here in Georgia. I have a little paper here with some other highlights. We have Marvel's Guardians of the Galaxy and Avengers Infinity War, actually shot right here in Atlanta. But I'm going to throw one more at you. Captain Marvel and the Incredible Hulk and Iron Man. Were they shot here? Were they not? The answer They were shot in California. So California, another major market for movies, but Atlanta quickly growing in following as a major film production the place and opportunity for so many film companies. That economic boost now bringing $12 billion in revenue to the state of Georgia, and so many movies. I mean, we're talking about Flight, Identity Thief, The Hunger Games, Catching Fire, and Mockingjay Part 1. The Divergent series, a personal favorite of mine, Hidden Figures, Baby Driver, and even this one, as you might recognize, a common Netflix favorite.
Is there any way that you could reach him?
Yes.
Nazi!
What if this whole time I've been looking for Will? I've been chasing after something else.
That's right. That is none other than Stranger Things, a blockbuster hit on Netflix, a fan favorite. So many of us recognize it for being the show that we binge when we get home after a long day. And that was actually shot here in Georgia. A lot of historical landmarks make up Atlanta and Georgia for film. And as our Lana Harris will tell you, there are some that you'll really want to keep an eye out for.
Horrifying moments in AMC's The Walking Dead. But fear hit historic downtown Sonoy before production even began on this street.
My being a new merchant on the street, that kind of scared me, terrified me at first, but it was such an experience.
Julie Brown, a former store owner, now happily operates Georgia Tour Company, bringing eager tourists.
They immediately scream, "Oh my gosh, I see it, I know this,"
to her hometown's iconic film locations.
This area that we're in is very prominent to that because you do see this contortionist coming down the stairs.
This 200-year-old home, a temporary set for The Walking Dead. Another element to its storied history, says homeowner Judy Beatty.
It's exciting to be part of it. I'm just a little speck in the timeline.
I think it's been one of the better things that has happened recently for Georgia.
Just a few miles down the road, Joe Stansel owns about 100 acres of land where this cabin was specially built for the 2012 film Lawless.
Well, Mr. Bondrin, do I get the job?
The amount of detail that those craftspeople involved in the movie industry, what they went to make it happen.
The property also serving as a set for photo shoots and other productions, including CBS's MacGyver and The Walking Dead.
Inside this old mill, this is where the finale of The Walking Dead Season 2 was shot. Many of the tens of thousands of people who have visited this place have been moved to tears.
And just meters away, a waterfall you'll recognize in Warner Brothers and Oprah Winfrey's The Color Purple. Slated to hit theaters Christmas Day 2023.
They were great guests.
And I'm sure the paycheck doesn't hurt either.
And that didn't hurt my feelings either because we got to pay taxes.
On public property, a 10-minute drive to neighboring Fayette County, Stars Mill Waterfall in WandaVision, The Conjuring 3, and Sweet Home Alabama.
Peaceful, tranquil, get out there on the rocks. They can actually do some water scenes.
For the tens of thousands of superfans from all 7 continents drawn to the small town sites, a little surprise sparked at what the town offers beyond the backdrops.
A lot of folks are moving here. They're picking up their homes in California and Florida, and they're moving here and wanting to be a part of this.
In Sonoy, Savannah Louie, Atlanta News First.
Respect.
We are home.
Black Panther.
Here we go.
Spider-Man.
Good evening, Peter.
Love it. For years, Georgians have had a front row seat to the making of major blockbuster films and TV shows.
I saw Spider-Man when he went up in the air at Rainbow.
Could you do me a favor? Hold on to that. Is this anybody's bag?
Let me tell you, the filming here is mega.
Cordelia Hunter, the director at the Office of Film and Entertainment in Atlanta, says Georgia is Hollywood of the South for a good reason.
Made in Georgia.
We have at least 14 to 20 productions on the street daily. You know, we're all over the place.
The Cornucopia Arena in the Hunger Games Catching Fire is really the Clayton County International Park. Remember the Oakland, California apartment complex at the beginning and end of Black Panther? Well, that's actually Wheat Street Towers right here east of downtown Atlanta.
We've had Captain America, Baby Driver, Ozark, The Walking Dead, Stranger Things. The list goes on and on and on.
We caught one production crew setting up to film in a fairly popular area of Atlanta.
I can tell you it's Disney, and I can tell you it's Marvel. So our set is going to be right there on William Street.
The Secret Productions location manager says Atlanta is a perfect backdrop to transport audiences around the world.
Atlanta can look like LA, Atlanta can look like Miami, we look like London, New York, and if you go outside of Atlanta, you'll get a little countryness as well.
Lana Harris, CBS 46 News.
All right, gave you a little 2-for-1. Savannah Louie making it out to some other parts of Georgia with the Walking Dead landmarks that we all love to see, and Lana Harris taking you through Atlanta and the movie magic that you didn't know was actually filmed right here, and so much more of that opportunity is coming because of Assembly Atlanta. This is a state-of-the-art studio, immersive space for so many people, not just filmmakers, not just film industry workers, but businesses in the Doraville community and others that are going to be utilizing this space for retail, for livable housing, for so many opportunities that are yet to come. Ahead is our Friday unveiling. We're so excited to bring that to you here on Atlanta News First and Atlanta News First Plus. And really, this is paving the way for the future of film. And a large part of that future is the next generation of workers. Here's Rachel Polanski with that report.
I've been standing with you. I've been right here with you, Troy.
Whether they want to be in front of the camera,
it has to be slid in.
Behind the camera,
you have to press this button.
The goal then becomes to try and find a piece that still stands alone.
We're writing the dialogue you see on screen. Students at Georgia State School of Film, Media, and Theater,
and just that moment that they're exposed,
are learning it all.
We can catch that little look.
Cinematography, from screenwriting, production, post-production, animation, sound, just everything you're interested in, there's a class for that.
And now a reveal.
It's one of the reasons why international student Cecilia Muniz came to GSU. The other reason, location.
I did look at California and New York, but then I learned about Atlanta, how it's like the Hollywood of the South. I started looking at schools in Georgia, and I saw that GSU was the best fit for me.
But it was not always this way. In fact, it was not until 2017 that the university created the School of Film, Media, and Theater.
Action.
And just last year, GSU began offering a Master of Fine Arts.
We've always done a really good job of getting people in below-the-line jobs, so crew work, craftsmen, editors, all of the sort of behind-the-scenes work. And we wanted more people that were above the line in the titles of the credits.
Yes, I love hearing that.
Dr. Ethan Tussey says above-the-line positions typically include directors, writers, actors, and those who influence the creative process.
Historically, the tax incentive has brought a lot of production here, but the coming up with the story and the talent that crafts the on-screen presence, that's usually happened in New York and LA. And so we're trying to build capacity here in Georgia.
And he wants his alumni to be able to get any job in the film industry.
Yeah, I like the way it feels.
And those efforts appear to be working. After graduating in 2021, alumni Timothy Richardson has worked as an actor, writer, and director of photography.
I shot my first feature. After that, a myriad of short films. Now I've branched over into the commercial field, and I'm shooting, around Atlanta, Georgia.
And he praises GSU for giving him the tools to succeed.
I credit a lot of my, early success to just being able to have professors that taught me the doctrine, they taught me the philosophy of what the moving image is. So that kind of, set me on the right path.
This is a good monologue.
Paving the way for future graduates.
And making sure that you can do that successfully.
Because here at GSU, professors don't want students and alumni to wait for Hollywood to come to them. They want to build the next generation of Hollywood here, with Georgia-grown actors, producers, and directors. Rachel Polanski, Atlanta News First.
And we actually have a very special guest here with us. You might know him as Decatur-ish Dan. Decatur-ish Dan, author, writer, journalist, Dan Whitesteed. Thank you so much for joining us here. You are the go-to DeKalb County guy. I mean, specifically, you're known for Decatur and really covering and bringing the stories of this community. I wanted to bring you on here not only to talk about Doraville, but to talk about the growth of DeKalb County. So thank you so much for joining us here today at Atlanta News First. Let's start with Doraville. You know, this is a metro Atlanta community that's culturally diverse. It is a booming small business area and soon home to film with the development of Assembly Atlanta. I mean, hearing about all of this, what goes through your head?
Jobs, and more jobs, economic development, hopefully more people moving to DeKalb County, which means more readers for us, which is always a good thing. Yeah, I mean, I think, you know, the film industry is already a big part of what we're doing in DeKalb County, so anything that can add to it is a win for everyone, I think.
And, you know, as we talk about Doraville, Decatur, DeKalb County, this space that's constantly growing and evolving in metro Atlanta, what have you seen over the past decade in terms of growth in this community?
There's been a lot of apartment developments, a lot of mixed-use type developments. There's a critical need for not only market rate, but for affordable housing within our community, and developers really have struggled to keep up with that demand, although I think some people in the community would say they're overbuilding a little bit, but the numbers are there, or they wouldn't be building it. But that's the critical area of growth is apartments and housing in our area, and the film industry contributes a large part to that because you know, film productions don't last forever, and there's a big need for housing that is temporary.
Yeah, absolutely. You have been a long-term resident of DeKalb County. You've covered extensively on Decatur-ish. By the way, if you aren't familiar with Decatur-ish, it's a fantastic source for DeKalb County news and local stories here in Atlanta. Make sure you go check that out, decatur-ish.com. You are, you know, hands-on. You brought that to life and birthed it. Any particular story that you have from your time there about a time that a film studio or movie set shut down Decatur or DeKalb County?
Well, in March, they filmed a Fairley Brothers movie, and they decorated the square with Christmas decorations, so I was very confused. I thought maybe they had forgotten to take their decorations down or something like that, and other people were confused too. But it was a Fairley Brothers movie. I haven't been able to confirm the name of that yet, but you know, there's stuff like that happens all the time. There are film crews in Decatur constantly. I live not far from North DeKalb Mall. And they film so many TV shows and movies there as well. It's a little surreal at times, being in the midst of people who are famous, who you might see at the grocery store or might see at a local restaurant, but it really adds a lot of value to our community and makes it a really interesting and neat place to live, I think.
And, you know, as we talk about this community, I want to focus in on jobs. Assembly Atlanta is doing a lot for film, but it's also bringing in jobs to Doraville, to DeKalb County. Specifically in Doraville, I have some statistics here. The median age for a Doraville resident is 32. The median household makes around $42,000, and over 33% of those households have children under the age of 18. So a lot of families that could benefit from job growth in this area. What do you think of the economic impact that a production project like Assembly Atlanta could bring to Doraville and DeKalb County?
Well, of course, you know, everybody wants their kid to move out of the house and get a job, so that's an immediate economic impact. You know, I think the jobs are just one piece of the puzzle, though. We need to have strong schools, and in DeKalb County, your mileage may vary depending on what school you go to, so we definitely need to work a little harder in DeKalb County to provide the kind of workforce that these jobs are going to require. So the jobs are great. Definitely glad that they're there, both from as a business owner perspective and as a father who is raising a young man who's pretty creative. But we really need to make sure that we're educating and training our workforce here in DeKalb County properly to be able to step into those jobs.
jobs such an important thing that could change futures. I mean, wealth building, providing opportunity, and connecting more people with film. I mean, you have a lot of people who want to break into this industry and get involved, whether that's on screen or behind the camera, and that opens up a lot of potential for them. I want to talk a little bit about Assembly Atlanta's phased openings. You know, we're excited to build to Friday when there's the grand unveiling, and people will get to see for the first time really the structure that sits at the old General Motors assembly plant, now standing as this state-of-the-art film studio production, live, work, eat, play environment. We talk about that. That will eventually lead into a public access portion of Assembly Atlanta where people can, you know, take their dogs on a walk or stroll down and see part of this production. Having that accessibility for the public puts Doraville on the map for things to do, activities, bringing in more revenue for these businesses. What are some other spots in Doraville to check out?
Well, I mean, food, you know, I can't say that enough. If you just throw a dart at a map of the world, that country's cuisine is probably in Doraville somewhere. There's just lots of good, you know, you've got Indian, you've got Salvadoran, you've got Mexican, you've got Chinese, you've got Taiwanese. Really, there's a great little revolving sushi restaurant that we go to over there that the name escapes me right now. But primarily, that's the biggest draw for a lot of people is just getting to check out all of these cool places that really you can't find anywhere else. So that's going to be a big part of it, I think.
I know you're a history follower. You're as a journalist, very well known on, you know, the development of certain things and how things evolve over the years. Assembly Atlanta being a big moment in history for Doraville. What are you most excited for Doraville's future with the development of a project like this?
Well, I think it'll definitely put Doraville on the map. You know, they've had you know, I believe that was the GM assembly plant back in the day, or the site was. Correct me if I'm wrong on that, but. You know, and it'll be another economic engine for Doraville, and having it right there in DeKalb County is going to be huge for us. You know, there's really not much more to add to it than that. I mean, you know, anytime you've got a major economic investment going on in your community, that is objectively a good thing. You know, it can only lead to good things, I hope, and I'm really excited I hope we're invited to the opening. I would love to see it myself. You know, I think I like hearing about the public access portion of it as well, you know, the walking trails, and, you know, we've got so much of that in DeKalb County, so it's really exciting. It's going to definitely make Doraville an even more special place than it already is.
Definitely special is the right word I would use. You do such great work for Decatur-ish, a media partner of ours here at Atlanta News First. For those that might not be familiar, I'm sure they're far and few, what should they know about Decatur-ish?
You know, we're a small local news website. We've got 2 full-time employees. One of them is myself. We punch above our weight. We try to cover as much as we can. We try to be as responsive as we can. You know, what they should know, I think, is that if we won the lottery, we would still be doing this, and we would just be even more annoying about it because we really love this work, and we really feel like it's important to be useful in your community. And so we love what we do. Zoe Seilers is a member of my team, and she does a terrific job for us, and we have just a bunch of great freelancers who step up and do terrific work for us. So we're very proud to be a part of DeKalb County and serve DeKalb County.
And we thank you for all. And that was a peek into our conversation earlier this week with Decatur-ish Dan. If you have a chance, go check it out, Decatur-ish.com. Latest local news out of DeKalb County. So many important stories here in the Atlanta community to follow over there. An important part of that conversation was the mention of public access. And a lot of you are probably thinking, oh, well, I'm not a filmmaker. I'm not really immersed in the film industry here in Georgia. I like a movie from time to time, but not much else. There is so much more to Assembly Atlanta than its opportunity for film. And as our Don Shipman will explain, this phase 1 is a big undertaking of bringing that project to fruition. But phase 2 is where we introduce the public to all that Assembly Atlanta has to offer.
basically creating a place that's a small town.
Construction crews and heavy equipment take up this space now, but in the coming months, that wide open plot of land right across the street from Brooklyn, New Orleans, and Paris will be a place for people to assemble.
The public park on the outside will have a pavilion. The pavilions can be designed for movie nights or concerts.
Assembly Atlanta is designed to look and feel like a city center. Along with the public parks, Gray Television's multi-million-dollar Doraville development project, which includes 250,000 square feet of stage space for TV and film production, will also include a boutique hotel, townhouses and apartments, and entertainment venues.
We're doing a series of small restaurant buildings. Those buildings are exclusively for those restaurants that are sitting in this amazing food world of Beaufort Highway.
Saw great potential in the area.
In nearby Chamblee, executive chef Bethany Colden of Southbound, a restaurant serving up farm-fresh Southern food, sees the potential for more growth, especially with Assembly linking its own on-campus trail system into Chamblee's existing 2-mile rail trail. Connectivity similar to Atlanta's Beltline.
Just watch that area grow, all the restaurants and condos and apartments popping up, walkability, people out.
And that was our Don Shipman kind of telling you more about phase 2, that exciting point where we will have a chance for you, the members of the public, you and I, community members, to walk along this space, to take in all of that it's bringing to Doraville, to that surrounding community, and really give us a chance to have that community space to enjoy on a weekend with each other, and to really take in all sides of Assembly Atlanta. As we've been mentioning throughout Atlanta News First and on Atlanta News First Plus, this is not just an ordinary film studio. It is an immersive space for so many in Doraville community, in Atlanta, and more that business that is yet to come because of a project like this. We actually had a chance to catch up with our own Gray Television CEO, Hilton Howell, as he talked about bringing this vision to life.
About 19 minutes until 10 o'clock on your Wednesday morning, and talk about it being a special morning for us here at Atlanta News First, because we are celebrating Atlanta's past, present, and future live from Assembly Atlanta Studios here in Doraville.
So we're giving you an up-close and really personal look at how far things have come. This used to be the old General Motors plant. You remember that? A lot of you may remember seeing that off of Interstate 285. Now, that 135 acres is home to where some major television studios and movie studios are assembled, and movies are going to be made here. Assembly Atlanta, of course, owned by Atlanta News First parent company, Gray Television.
And as you can see, we are now joined by Gray TV's Chief Executive Officer, Hilton Howell. It's great for you to be here this morning. Great for us to be out here too.
Listen, Brooks and Greer, could not be happier to be here. And I will tell you, you mentioned the history. I've got a vintage General Motors assembly plant from Doraville that a friend brought to us, and I couldn't think of a better moment to put it on and wear it out here. So to reflect on the history of this site, and then talk about the future too.
It really is crazy when you think about the fact that it's 135 acres and that they used to assemble General Motors cars here. You know what I mean? And now, when you look back here, because you walk through here quite a bit, and see you whizzing around on your golf cart through here as well. Are you just in awe and shock at what has happened?
You know, I really am. I'm actually thrilled with what's happened, but I'm actually blown away by how quickly the Gibson Company, you know, and all the subcontractors and everyone that's been working here has gotten this deal done. I mean, it's been 19 months. The first pad was paved March before last, and here we are in October, and we're getting ready to formally open it Saturday night.
Right. That's so awesome. Just think about where we were this time last year when we were broadcasting from here. We were seeing a lot of framing. Right. We weren't seeing beautiful glass windows and all of this stuff. So obviously a lot has changed within this year. Why now? Why was this the perfect time to create something like this?
Well, believe it or not, Georgia was lucky enough to open up a little bit earlier than other states. Thanks to our governor, and so we had to do shooting, and do a number of different things, and we had to put on the American version of World Chase Tag here in Atlanta because they couldn't do it anywhere else in the country.
You're talking about after COVID, right?
During COVID.
During COVID.
And so we started literally looking around for places to produce that show, and we couldn't find anything. And then when we acquired Raycom, we picked up a company called Swirl Films, and they had production facilities in Paulding County, and we just started looking around for more. And then this property became available. They were selling the note to it, and so one thing led to another, and now here we are.
And you and Michael Thurman go back a long way, the CEO, and so you called Michael Thurman and you said, hey, can I talk with you over lunch? And all of a sudden, here we are. Talk a little bit about what we're going to be able to see here. We've been showing some of it. You know, Don Shipman's talked about the huge park where the public's going to be able to come. Yes. There's going to be living space here, but talk about these huge production studios too.
Well, really the first thing, I mean, the engine that's going to drive all of this is the movie studios.
Okay.
And so we're going to open the rest of it up to other facilities, but all of those facilities are going to be designed aesthetically so that they are filmable sort of places. Because all over Georgia, not necessarily here, you have certain scenes that have to be seen or shot at a stage. And so the reason we did the facades, and even the facades here, which were sort of our version, these glass buildings, of sort of a modern world, and something that's not, that common. We want them to show Georgia, but when they need to do something else, we want to do it here. So we have the facades, we have the interior, we have the stages, and then everything we're going to build out there will be filmable, but it'll also be something that will be accessible to the public. I did see Don's report this morning. I mean, we're going to have a beautiful 5-acre park. We'll have a performance venue at the end of it that is in the process of being built. And so what I'm hoping to be able to do is have folks come bring their blankets and their picnic baskets out and watch the movies that are produced here in Doraville. Right. And we have the exhibits of what's going on and the premiere locally of those movies here for all the community. So.
That's so awesome. And we know that it requires a lot of people to run a place like this. How many jobs are we talking as far as people, the crews, not just within the film industry, but even people who are out here making all this happen?
I think right off the bat, the number that we anticipate is 4,000 jobs. And most of those will be through Universal, our partner that are here on the set. But beyond that, as you look at the production and all the rest of the crews that come with that, it may be up to 9,000 sort of individual jobs just here out of what we've done in this portion of Assembly Atlanta. So we're very excited about that.
It's going to be super cool. You got the big grand opening this weekend, right? And so this place behind us is going to be lit up.
Oh, yeah.
It's going to be wild.
It's going to be
It's going to be a party, Hilton Howell.
It is. Well, we are throwing it for, this is an opening for the people of Georgia and Atlanta. And so I know that you guys are going to air a red carpet show on Peachtree TV live, and then we will be carrying that nationwide on local news live over the top. And then each of our individual stations in 114 markets are going to be putting a little special on. And so we'll get a chance to show Assembly off, show Atlanta off, and show Doraville off, and show Georgia off.
Well, they're working hard to make it happen, I can tell you that. Got people in hard hats all around us. Thank you so much, Hilton Howell. Appreciate you joining us.
Yes, absolutely.
And that was our very own Gray Television CEO, Hilton Howell. If you have a chance to ever have a conversation with him, you know he's passionate about what he does and is a visionary, clearly, with the creation of Assembly Atlanta. 135 acres of this eat, sleep, live place dedicated to filmmaking, dedicated to business building, dedicated to economy boosting. A lot of excitement to follow here at Atlanta News First Plus as we continue to take you through all parts of Assembly Atlanta and the long impact, lifetime impact that it will have in years to come with the unveiling Friday of Assembly Atlanta and Assembly Studios. We actually got to catch up with DeKalb County CEO Michael Thurman as he talked about getting that call from CEO Hilton Howell and everything that's come since then.
The new state-of-the-art studio is on the 135 acres that once used to house the old GM plant here. A lot of you remember that. And we're celebrating everything Assembly this week. the completion of assembly here in DeKalb County. Joining us this morning, we've got DeKalb County CEO Michael Thurman. Great to have you with us.
Delighted to be with you again.
I know, we were here a year ago.
Yes.
When we were in a big tent because all these buildings weren't here yet, right?
Just a big mud hole out there, right?
So when you pulled up, and I know you've been watching the progress over the last couple of years, when you see it now, I want to hear what your thoughts are.
Amazing, transformational. Hilton Howell, Jay Gibson are just amazing visionary leaders. And I told Hilton, it's like walking with Walt Disney in the early 1940s. This changes everything, not just in DeKalb County, but this represents a gravitational shift in the film and production industry here to DeKalb County. Things will never be the same again.
You know, it's interesting because we talked earlier about how a lot of even universities and colleges are now offering classes, getting the next generation ready for the film and TV industry. They don't have to go out of state anymore, do they?
Not anymore. And 4,000 jobs here at this site that's directly created, indirectly tens of thousands of others. These are huge career opportunities for current and future generations of Georgians.
It's kind of full circle for you because you were labor commissioner back when the plant here in Doraville that used to sit on this site closed. You were here when that closing happened. So it's almost like an arc, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely. And I can remember the disappointment and heartbreak with generations of Georgians that worked at the Doraville plant. We closed it, but it's been a phoenix, a transformation, a rebirth of economic opportunity and development right here on this site. And I'm just proud that DeKalb County, Doraville, working with Hilton Howell and Gray Communications have been able to build this partnership, public and private, to create jobs.
Let me ask you a little bit, Michael Thurman, about, because I know, I'm from Nashville, Tennessee, and I've seen what happened to Nashville. It's booming, right?
Yes.
But at the same time, you gotta have infrastructure, you gotta have all those things that come along with that boom. What does DeKalb County need to do now to really prepare for the influx of the thousands of jobs that are going to be created? Are you planning ahead?
Great question, Gavir. First of all, we made the investment here, roughly $190 million just to support the infrastructure for this multi-billion-dollar effort.
Right.
But we have to continue to invest in our water and sewer system, in our roads and streets. Look at this site. One of the reasons this is so phenomenal, you have assembly here, but you have MARTA, a station, 285. The Department of Transportation invested nearly $1 billion in upgrading 285 with express lanes, and just a stone's throw from PDK Airport and Hartsfield. That's infrastructure. You can't build above ground unless you invest underground.
Well, we're going to see what happens. Speaking of 285, I got stuck in some of that traffic and that construction this morning on the way to work. But
I did it too, actually. I was worried. I said, Gavir will fuss at me if I'm late. So we were weaving in and out trying to get here for you.
It's short-term pain for long-term gain, right? All right. Listen, a year from now, this thing's not even going to look anything like it does now. It's going to be even bigger and better. Michael Thurman, CEO of DeKalb County, thank you so much for joining us.
And thank you for being who you are. We are so proud of you, and you represent the very best in broadcast journalism.
Thank you much.
Thank you.
I couldn't have said that better myself. Gavir, a gem to work with, a gem to learn from. CEO Michael Thurman talking about the future, reflecting on the past, and the job creation that's to come, the projects, the future of film here in Georgia looking really bright with Assembly Atlanta. You know, we actually got to catch up with another figure central to film here in Georgia with a years-long impact of the history and the growth of film here in the Peach State. Director of the Georgia Film Office, Lee Thomas, stopped by Assembly Atlanta to talk with Arlana Harris and Rick Fulbaum. Here's that interview.
Film industry is booming here in Georgia. With the opening of Assembly Studios, more movies and TV shows will be filmed here in the Peach State.
Yeah, we already have a lot, right? Yeah. So let's talk about it. Joining us this morning, we have Lee Thomas. She is the director for the Georgia Film Office. So, gosh,
good morning.
It's such an exciting time. We're glad you're here with us. Now, it's exciting for a lot of reasons because we're, of course, celebrating Assembly. The Georgia Film Office is celebrating 50 years.
That's right. That's right.
It's fun to be in Georgia.
I know. It's amazing. Jimmy Carter started our office back in 1973. So, yeah, we're in our 50th year right now. Very exciting.
What makes Georgia so attractive to the movie studios, the people that make these productions?
You know, Georgia has everything going for it. So we have a great incentive that has been very stable that the legislature put in 2008. We have, you know, diverse locations. So you think about, we have mountains and coastline and big cities and small towns. We have the world's busiest airport, so people can travel in and out easily. Right. Temperate climate, lots of crew and lots of infrastructure, amazing infrastructure that's been built here. Okay. So everything together.
Yeah. So let's talk about the numbers, because this really impacts all of us because it impacts our economy. So how much money does it really pump in every year?
Yeah, it's amazing. So this last year, and you know, part of this year has been in a strike or two strikes, right. But we did $4.1 billion, and that's direct spend. Wow. That's not even an economic impact number. But you know, if you looked at, you know, the first 35 years of the film office, we did $1.1 billion in the first 35 years, and then last year we did 4.1.
Wow.
So it's really taken off.
Yeah.
Any big productions in the works? I mean, we know that the actor strike is still going on. The writers have settled. But is there anything you could share with us that we could be excited about?
Well, we're very excited, you know, to have everybody get back to work. I know everybody's ready. You know, we're waiting for those episodic shows that, you know, people are looking forward to, like Stranger Things Season 5 and Will Trent. And of course, we always have Marvel, you know, returning. So it's exciting.
Yeah.
We're ready for it.
I know it's a lot of hush-hush secrets. You can't give away a lot of the stuff. But that's cool. Okay, so then it's not just the entertainment industry that gets impacted when these big movies come here. It really has a domino effect across the state. So can you talk about that?
Sure, yeah. I mean, you know, there's the people that are paid, that you think about, crew people and actors, but then there's all of these support service companies. You know, lumber yards in South Georgia are getting the benefit, and then you know, they get carpet from North Georgia, and then caterers and landscapers, hotels and restaurants. I mean, it really trickles out throughout the economy, so it really helps everybody. So we're ready to get back on it.
Well, we're excited, and you mentioned the infrastructure. We're glad that Assembly is going to be a part of that and provide space to these companies that want to come and make movies and television shows here in Georgia. Thank you so much for coming in, Lee Thomas from the Georgia Film Office. We
Thank
really
you so
appreciate
much.
it.
And that was our conversation with Lee Thomas, really heavily involved in the mission to bring Georgia's film industry to life as a major media player, much like you see in California and Hollywood and in New York. Georgia rapidly growing and developing as a major media giant of home for film and filmmaking, and Assembly Atlanta is just bringing that future and continuing to push it up and forward. You know, earlier today, if you were with us, we talked with Randy Davidson. He's the CEO of Georgia Entertainment, and he highlighted not only the job creation, but the potential for businesses, both big and small, and what Assembly Atlanta is going to bring with that movement for film here in Georgia, but also bringing up the economy and putting more money back in your wallet.
Georgia's entertainment tax credit has been hugely instrumental in bringing a number of high-level feature films, television shows, commercials, all to Georgia with the now very famous Made in Georgia label that is on the in the end credits of many, many major motion picture films. And we're talking with this edition of Political Update here on Atlanta News First with Randy Davidson, who is the president and CEO of Georgia Entertainment, and somebody who's really just plugged in to the state's entertainment community and the news and the tremendous business and revenue that has been generated from the Georgia Entertainment Tax Credit. Kind of give us an overview of just how important and instrumental the tax credit has been in bringing films to Georgia. We know that Governor Jimmy Carter back in the 70s first created a sort of a tax credit to lure movie production companies here, and then Burt Reynolds' film Deliverance in North Georgia. That really started everything. but I believe it was in the early 2000s when Governor Sonny Perdue actually formalized and extended this tax credit. Tell us how all that has worked.
Yeah, that's a good history, because 2023 is 50 years of the Georgia Film Office from President Carter put that together, and it was pretty visionary from his administration to do that. And you're right as well that Sonny Perdue really got together with a few key people to figure out a way to drive more spending, seeing the benefits of tourism and the ancillary jobs that are around film production. Catering and hotels and things that benefit when a production comes in to spend in a city or in a community. So that was a very strategic move. And then Nathan Deal created the Georgia Film Academy, which allowed us to not have to import specialty skill sets from California and other places. And there's been thousands of people trained through that. That was another visionary activity. And then, just really making it a little bit easier and less complicated to work with our incentive to spend in Georgia also happened during the Deal administration and has been tweaked over the years, but it's been essential. The productions have baked in an incentive to, within their P&L. So that's got to take place, or they will go and find that somewhere in America. Other states post up incentives. Other countries have various programs. So it's a strategic move to get us to get our state to get that money spent in Georgia.
What benefit to everyday Georgians, everyday Atlantans like you and I, who go to work every day and put in long hours, and to families, single parents, multi-parent households, large families, single adults, what benefit do we as Georgians reap, if there are any benefits at all, from the Hollywood of the South label that we have?
Well, first of all, I think we're definitely not the Hollywood of the South. I think we're Georgia. In fact, it's been it's quite amazing, because a lot of people, I think, have narrowed their thought process on the incentive, and we could be doing this and that, and there's a lot of accounting of the numbers for what we've done. But Georgia has decided to back an industry, so it's not like a credit for a company. What Georgia did, and I think most will agree that it was somewhat accidental, was that there is a creative economy boom in the world that's happening. In my age, I'm 52, but at my age, I was hitting a crushed can with a stick. That was my entertainment. And my job opportunities were blue collar, great long paying jobs at General Motors or at Ford or some other plant, or professional doctor and so forth. And due to the limitation of distribution, of media, you had 3 channels and geo-fenced radio stations and things like that. You were very limited in what you did. Look what the internet has done. The internet there's niched up entertainment everywhere, and there's broadcast around every topic you can think of. If you're a plumber, you don't have to go home and watch a football game or whatever's on the major 3 networks. You can actually go watch plumbing shows or have an interest in that. So it's happened in gaming, it's happening in music. You can, entertainment as a business is a real career choice now. And all you have to do is look around at our young people, see what they're doing. They're basically from the youngest of ages engaging with digital media, and Georgia happens to be leading that. And so I think that's something that we often forget, when we talk about, well, what's this community benefiting in Georgia from? Why does this taxpayer, why have we invested in this? And this is something that I always tell people, it's an incentive that gets better with time, because the longer we invest in it, and we have these companies investing billions in our infrastructure, it's only building it out for Georgia to be the leader of this creative boom that we're experiencing.
But as long as we continue to invest in this, why is there always seemingly sometimes under the surface, sometimes above the surface, a political movement or an ideology that says, all right, we really need to revisit this entertainment tax credit. And if you're a supporter of the tax credit itself, you ask yourself, why would we want to kill the golden goose? Why do we always have, seemingly right around this very same time of the year with the legislative session only a few months away, there's always an undercurrent of seeming dissatisfaction with what we're doing. Why is that?
I think early on, that there was some really bona fide, legitimate concerns about it, especially as the creative industries was not, taking off as much with, or was not where it is now. But clearly, there is a lot of benefit from, legislators debating this and making sure that we're being responsible with what we're doing. But the situation currently is that we have a lot of new legislators in the legislature that don't quite understand what's going on with they're getting their heads around everything. Hold on just one second. Okay. But sorry about that. But there's a lot of legislators that are getting their heads wrapped around it, and they used to use the excuse that we were importing workers, from out of the state and so forth. But now we have our own workers, and now it's a mature area. We're seeing studios being built in Athens. There's one planned in South Georgia. There's activity in Columbus. There's one planned for Savannah. So going back to it getting better with time, it's a very interesting concept to say, hey, let's ease back on it when all of that is really happening. And besides that, even the music and the gaming, esports communities, they even acknowledge that this investment has really driven talent to be able to thrive and driven career opportunities for Georgians.
Do you foresee the General Assembly ever revoking or cutting back on any of the benefits, tax, financial, otherwise, that we currently offer film and TV production companies? Do you ever foresee, or is it a danger that could happen moving forward?
My personal view of that is that I think that there will always be terms like guardrails and caps and things of that nature that people will talk about. But a lot of people, as you talk to them, those are political terms without understanding of the economics of what it's done for Georgia. Those are easy terms to sort of run to. But I think really what's happening is that legislators all around the state are seeing the benefit. They're seeing their young people that want these jobs. They see the pride and the inspiration that communities have whenever they're doing projects or they have film projects. The other thing I see also happening is opportunities for other creative industries to participate in this growth, where Georgia's got their back, where Georgia is the state to come to if you're creating music, if you have a story. I mean, right, and there's a concept that we're mature, we're doing so well. Well, we're so not mature, it's not even funny. We're a production state. We get projects from other places like California, stories from other places, money from other places. I mean, we're so far away from being a truly, a state that it really embraces all the areas of entertainment that it's, that it goes back to us, to this getting better with time. I mean, look at a gaming company, and gaming has done very well in Georgia and continues to grow, but there's scripts, there's animation or video talent, there's music, it's all converging, and all of these ways that people entertain themselves is all encompassing in what is happening with the creative economy in Georgia. So, and we're number one, and other states with lots of smart people are dying to have this. So I think it's something that we embrace and celebrate.
Speaking of other states, we have done stories in the past on what other states, New Jersey, elsewhere, are trying to do in terms of luring film production companies to their states. Do you foresee there are any other states that are really gaining on Georgia in that regard?
I think that first, I think that California has certainly lost a lot of its luster in that area. I mean, we have a lot of companies based there that have a big presence here now in Georgia. I think that one of the reasons that Georgia is the top economy for 10 years running, the top, the number one state, according to Site Selector magazine for 10 years running, is the environment that we have. I mean, you can invest. These studios that Assembly's put up and Trilith and Tyler Perry, these are Georgians. They're not getting any of the tax credit. These are jobs that Georgians have invested in and they're buying. So it's something that I feel like that we have a lead. It's one of those things where they're going to have to take it away from you, or you're going to have to really fumble the ball in order to lose. And I think that other states are going to have to look at other areas of growth. And that's where our competitive situation will be, is making sure that we don't lose out in music or gaming or animation or post-production and other areas of what supports all of this creative economy. We need to celebrate what we have, continue investing, and allow these other areas to also have an environment to succeed.
Final question. 5 years from now, 10 years from now, where do you think we will be as a state in terms of a production hub for film, TV, gaming, other forms of entertainment? Crystal ball.
Man, it's going to be so exciting. I get chill bumps even thinking about it, because every company will be in the entertainment business. No matter if you're selling boxes, if you're selling, if you're selling couches, furniture, or whatever, you have got to have an entertainment faction to your company in order to get the loyalty that our younger generation is looking for, the identity that they want to have with brands. And so it's a sea change, in my view, of the way the economics of America and generally of the world are going to be handled and looked at in the future. And Georgia is where you're going to come to get quality work from quality people, and where story ideas, and where Georgians can stay here, not leave the state, raise families here, and create a great opportunity for themselves and for their generations. So in 5 years, I feel like, and I hope, and I trust that Georgia will be that place.
Well, we will certainly continue to watch this topic. It is Assembly Week here at Atlanta News First, as we are highlighting Assembly Atlanta and other Georgia film, TV, and gaming and production news here throughout our state. Thanks to Randy Davidson, President and CEO of Georgia Entertainment. Thanks to all of you for watching and listening to this edition of Political Update here on Atlanta News First.
Alrighty, everybody, good afternoon to you. Thank you so much for joining me here at the Atlanta News First Alert Desk. I'm Savannah Louie. Glad that you've been joining along with us as we've been talking about Assembly Atlanta, newest film studio to be opening up here in the Metro Atlanta area. All of us at Atlanta News First are so excited about this big week for us. This is Assembly Atlanta Week, where we are celebrating all things Georgia, film production, movie production, TV production, and more. If you're just now joining us, I want to say hello, first of all. Thank you for being here. We've got about 25 minutes before our 3 o'clock newscast, so what I want to do here is really just talk about not only Assembly Atlanta as the facility and as the amazing film studio that it is, because it is so much more than just a film studio, but I also want to dive a little bit deeper into some of the interesting aspects of production here in Georgia that we've been tracking over the past several years as it continues to grow and grow and grow. If you're from the Georgia area, or especially the Atlanta metro area, you've probably seen some of that growth for yourself. But enough about that. I got to show you. This is what our parent company, Gray Television, has been working on for the past just about 2 years now. You can see construction going up here. This is over in Doraville. And again, they're building Assembly Atlanta, which is going to be very different from any other film studios in the Atlanta metro area. Yes, I know that is a pretty big claim to make, but let me tell you, this is, again, so much different, so much more different from any other film studio we have, because it's truly something we consider to be a live, work, and play environment. So yeah, okay, obviously they are going to be shooting films, TV shows, and even more in this space. But they're also going to be creating things like a boutique hotel, townhouses and apartments, entertainment venues, which could include e-gaming facilities. There's also going to be a conference center, office buildings. So again, this is not just a place where they're going to be shooting some of your favorite, soon-to-be favorite productions here, but also a place where, you know, people could really go to make a life for themselves. Now, I mentioned earlier, we have had a team of reporters and anchors with Atlanta News First working pretty hard all week long, bringing you stories that have to do with the film and production here in the state of Georgia. And that includes myself. I am an anchor. I anchor the 10 p.m. show, so hopefully you can join us tonight on Atlanta News First, on Peachtree TV, the CW. But one of the stories, the story that I really focused on here was taking you down to Sonoy. And if you're familiar with Sonoy, it might be because you're a huge fan of the hit TV show, The Walking Dead. AMC's The Walking Dead. That is the city where this entire hit series pretty much was filmed and shot over the course of several years. And if you go down to Sonoy, you can have the very cool opportunity to meet with some of the locals there who will take you on a private tour. Not just me, but anyone can go on this private tour. It's pretty cool. And so they took me to several spots around the area where not just The Walking Dead was shot, but also some other famous movies that you may have seen and that you will see coming to theaters later this year, along with some TV shows as well, even some photo shoots. So I am going to take you now to Sonoy to show you a little bit about what I experienced when I was there. Horrifying moments in AMC's The Walking Dead. But fear hit historic downtown Sonoy before production even began on this street.
My being a new merchant on the street, that kind of scared me, terrified me at first. But it was such an experience.
Julie Brown, a former store owner, now happily operates Georgia Tour Company, bringing eager tourists.
They immediately scream, "Oh my gosh, I see it, I know this,"
to her hometown's iconic film locations.
This area that we're in is very prominent to that because you do see this contortionist coming down the stairs.
This 200-year-old home, a temporary set for The Walking Dead. Another element to its storied history, says homeowner Judy Beatty.
It's exciting to be part of it. I'm just a little speck in the timeline.
I think it's been one of the better things that has happened recently for Georgia.
Just a few miles down the road, Joe Stansel owns about 100 acres of land where this cabin was specially built for the 2012 film Lawless.
Well, Mr. Bondrin, do I get the job?
The amount of detail that those craftspeople involved in the movie industry, what they went to make it happen.
The property also serving as a set for photo shoots and other productions, including CBS's MacGyver and The Walking Dead.
Inside this old mill, this is where the finale of The Walking Dead Season 2 was shot. Many of the tens of thousands of people who have visited this place have been moved to tears.
And just meters away, a waterfall you'll recognize in Warner Brothers and Oprah Winfrey's The Color Purple. Slated to hit theaters Christmas Day 2023.
They were great guests.
And I'm sure the paycheck doesn't hurt either.
And that didn't hurt my feelings either because we got to pay taxes.
On public property, a 10-minute drive to neighboring Fayette County, Stars Mill Waterfall in WandaVision, The Conjuring 3, and Sweet Home Alabama.
Peaceful, tranquil, get out there on the rocks. They can actually do some water scenes.
For the tens of thousands of superfans from all 7 continents drawn to the small town sites, a little surprise sparked at what the town offers beyond the backdrops.
a lot of folks are moving here. They're picking up their homes in California and Florida, and they're moving here and wanting to be a part of this.
In Sonoy, Savannah Louie, Atlanta News First.
Yeah, that story was a blast to put together. Just a little behind the scenes for you. When we went behind the scenes and did that tour, that was an all-day event. So we got there, I think, around, I want to say maybe 8:30, and we spent the entire afternoon there shooting all those different locations. And one of the cool things too about that tour company, Georgia Tour Company, is that they have a variety of tours that they offer to where you can go and choose which type of tour you want to do. So for example, Walking Dead fans, that would be your tour. They also offer a Stranger Things themed tour. So that'll take you, I don't know if there's any fans of Stranger Things out there watching today. I'm a huge Stranger Things fan. They have a specific tour where they will take you to Stranger Things sites around the Atlanta, Georgia metro, Atlanta metro area, which really showcase some of the famous spots that you'll recognize if you're a huge fan of that series. And I know they also have a Marvel themed, so at the end of that story there where we talk about WandaVision, that would be one of the spots where they would take you for that Marvel tour. And they also have a Southern film version of a tour as well, where they highlight Fried Green Tomatoes, I think, is one of the films that they do, and Sweet Home Alabama is another one. So they'll take you to some of the Southern film sites. So if there's anyone out there who is really excited about some of Georgia's past film locations that we've had here over the past, what has it been, decade plus? Go find the story, that story I just did. Go find it online. We have it on AtlantaNewsFirst.com along with our Atlanta News First app. And there's a link to that company's website where you can organize your own tour. And it was a lot of fun. The people are seriously great to work with. All right, guys. While we're talking about the film industry here in Georgia, we're obviously, so excited about Assembly Atlanta opening and the opportunities that it's going to bring here to the Atlanta Metro. I believe, in Doraville specifically, it's going to bring thousands of job opportunities to Doraville. It's going to bring thousands of new residents potentially to the area as well. So we're talking about some big, exciting changes coming up here in the future. But I think it's also really important to take a look back at where we've been, right? Georgia hasn't always been the Yollywood, the Hollywood of the South, right? So for this next story, I want to show you guys, we have Alan Devlin, and he takes a look at the history of Assembly Atlanta and how the film industry, has grown over the past several decades. This is a really cool story. I think you guys are going to like it. And from here, I will let Alan Devlin take it away.
Let's take a walk through history, shall we?
Is there any way that you could reach him? Yes.
The film industry in Georgia has come a long way since it first started in the 1970s. And we sure didn't start here. Or here.
Morning, Miss Daisy. You leave my flower bed alone.
Or here.
Where are you going, city boy? We'll find it.
Well, let's go to the start of it, which was delivery.
Yep, that's it. According to many industry experts far and wide, the 1972 American thriller Deliverance was the film that put the Georgia film industry on the map. So I swung by an iconic spot in Georgia film, the Silver Skillet in Midtown.
I was listing out places we could do this interview, and I listed the Silver Skillet. You're like, let's go to the Silver Skillet. It's basically my second home.
And met with a man who's been involved in the business since the beginning.
Really and truly.
And who knows all about it.
Deliverance. Talk to me about that movie, the production, and the aftermath of having a movie like that catch fire.
So what it really did is it said, we want to Los Angeles, to the filmmakers, it said, we want you here, number one. Number two, it said, we can make this work for you.
The river-riding film starring John Voight and Burt Reynolds, along with others, details the trip of some Atlanta businessmen canoeing down a river up in North Georgia. and running into some not-so-friendly locals. That river, the Chattooga, those locals, Rabun County's own.
If I lived in Rabun County at the time, I might have had some raised eyebrows about suggesting that you film this here. But the community said, no, let's give it a shot. And that was important. The idea that they said, we're willing to work with you, big deal.
My name is Jimmy Carter.
And after that movie erupted into the national spotlight, Governor Jimmy Carter was the one that said, wait a minute, we could have something here, forming the state's film commission to build on Deliverance's success.
It was about jobs, pure and simple. It was pretty small, but it was infant, but everybody was very eager, very willing to work together and to work hard to try and get something done. And look where we are now.
And because of that river riding thriller and a little help from a peanut farmer, the Hollywood of the South pressed play. And the rest is history. Alan Devlin, Atlanta News First.
That was a fun one, wasn't it? Isn't it crazy? You know, as those some of those productions were firing up on the screen as we exited out there. Some of them I was actually surprised to see had been shot in Georgia. Baby Driver, I love that movie. I didn't know that was shot here actually, so that was really interesting. And a really cool story, a really cool way to tell that story rather. All right, so guys, we know that we've come a long way in the film industry for the state of Georgia. We know that there are exciting things to come, and that's where I want to take us now. All right, we sat down with the CEO. I believe it was the CEO. Yes, we sat down with DeKalb County CEO Michael Thurmond, and he explained to us some of his goals and visions for the DeKalb County community. Like I said earlier, Assembly Atlanta, this 135-acre property with plenty of opportunities for productions. It's going to bring a lot of opportunity to not only Doraville, but to Metro Atlanta and specifically to DeKalb County. So with that in mind, I am going to send things over. Let me see if I can pull this up. All right, we have our Atlanta News First anchor, Gavir Dinza, who spoke with Michael Thurmond about the future of Assembly Atlanta and opportunities it could bring here in the Atlanta Metro, specifically DeKalb County.
The new state-of-the-art studio is on the 135 acres that once used to house the old GM plant here. A lot of you remember that. And we're celebrating everything Assembly this week. The completion of Assembly here in DeKalb County. Joining us this morning, we've got DeKalb County CEO Michael Thurmond. Great to have you with us.
Delighted to be with you again.
I know, we were here a year ago.
Yes.
When we were in a big tent because all these buildings weren't here yet, right?
Just a big mud hole out there, right?
So when you pulled up, and I know you've been watching the progress over the last couple of years, when you see it now, I want to hear what your thoughts are.
Amazing, transformational. Hilton Howell, Jay Gibson are just amazing visionary leaders. And I told Hilton, it's like walking with Walt Disney in the early 1940s. This changes everything, not just in DeKalb County, but this represents a gravitational shift in the film and production industry here to DeKalb County. Things will never be the same again.
You know, it's interesting because we talked earlier about how a lot of even universities and colleges are now offering classes, getting the next generation ready for the film and TV industry. They don't have to go out of state anymore, do they?
Not anymore. And 4,000 jobs here at this site that's directly created, indirectly tens of thousands of others. These are huge career opportunities for current and future generations of Georgians.
It's kind of full circle for you because you were labor commissioner back when the plant here in Doraville that used to sit on this site closed. You were here when that closing happened. So it's almost like an arc, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely. And I can remember the disappointment and heartbreak with generations of Georgians that worked at the Doraville plant. We closed it, but it's been a phoenix, a transformation, a rebirth of economic opportunity and development right here on this site. And I'm just proud that DeKalb County, Doraville, working with Hilton Howard, Gray Communications, have been able to build this partnership, public and private, to create jobs.
Let me ask you a little bit, Michael Thurman, about, because I know I'm from Nashville, Tennessee, and I've seen what happened to Nashville. It's booming, right?
Yes.
But at the same time, you gotta have infrastructure. You gotta have all those things that come along with that boom. What does DeKalb County need to do now to really prepare for the influx of the thousands of jobs that are going to be created? Are you planning ahead?
Great question, Gavir. First of all, we made the investment here, roughly $190 million just to support the infrastructure for this multi-billion-dollar effort.
Right.
But we have to continue to invest in our water and sewer system, in our roads and streets. Look at this site. One of the reasons this is so phenomenal, you have assembly here, but you have MARTA, a station, 285. The Department of Transportation invested nearly $1 billion in upgrading 285 with express lanes, and just a stone's throw from PDK Airport in Hartsfield. That's infrastructure. You can't build above ground unless you invest underground.
Well, we're going to see what happens. Speaking of 285, I got stuck in some of that traffic and that construction this morning on the way to work. But
I did it too, actually. I was worried. I said, Gavir will fuss at me if I'm late, so we were weaving in and out trying to get here for you.
It's short-term pain for long-term gain, right? All right. Listen, a year from now, this thing's not even going to look anything like it does now. It's going to be even bigger and better. Michael Thurman, CEO of DeKalb County, thank you so much for joining us.
And thank you for being who you are. We are so proud of you, and you represent the very best in broadcast journalism.
Thank you much.
Thank
Appreciate
you.
it. All right, we're going to post this interview online at atlantanewsfirst.com.
All right, that was pretty cool insight, wasn't it? Again, that was DeKalb County CEO Michael Thurman there with Atlanta News First anchor Gavir Dinza sharing a little bit about the exciting things to come for DeKalb County. We know there are going to be a lot of economic opportunities and a lot of excitement overall over how Assembly Atlanta is going to be impacting the folks who live in the area. A lot of good opportunities to come. All right, guys, it is about 5 minutes before our 3 o'clock newscast. So when that happens, we're going to go ahead and we're going to air our 3 p.m. newscast. We're going to stream it live. So before we go, if you are just now joining us, I know maybe some people are going to be a little bit early for the 3 p.m. newscast today, or if, you're just now wanting a recap of Assembly Atlanta, what is this amazing facility we've been talking about, that's where I want to leave you this afternoon. I want to leave you with just a really brief overall sort of introduction to Assembly Atlanta, if you will. Again, this is going to be a massive 135-acre facility in Doraville, in DeKalb County, with not only film studios, but so much more to really create a live, work, play environment. Again, we're also excited about this. And from here, I'm going to go ahead and let one of our reporters tell a little bit more about what exactly Assembly Atlanta is and everything that it has to offer.
The scale and scope of this project is massive.
I think a lot of people don't really realize how transformative this is going to be.
Assembly Atlanta sits on nearly 135 acres. The former GM assembly plant, now the site of Assembly Studios, housing 22 sound stages, along with production offices, warehouses, and space for TV and film productions.
At the end of the day, this is a place where art comes together.
What makes Assembly so unique is that it's mixed use. Eventually, you will be able to shop here, have dinner here, and even live here.
It's very conceivable that as you come through here at any time, they may be shooting a scene for a movie. That's why we did it.
Already, Assembly's owner, Gray Television, which is also the parent company of Atlanta News First, has entered into a long-term lease agreement with NBC Universal. Other movie production companies are slated to come on board too, creating thousands of new jobs for the surrounding communities.
Amazing to see what Gray has been able to do. And, even just comparing the site today to the site a year ago is just phenomenal.
And back here along Assembly Boulevard, you're looking at New York City, another place that movies and TV shows can be filmed. Another place right over here. This is the public park. The public can come here and enjoy this park. There's going to be an amphitheater, music concerts will be played here. There's going to be a couple of ponds, a beautiful green space for everyone to assemble. We're at Assembly Atlanta. Don Shipman, Atlanta News First.
I cannot wait to catch some of the concerts out there. That is going to be a blast. All right, guys, I told you a little bit earlier, we're gearing up for our 3 p.m. newscast. And one of the things, if you haven't caught our shows at all throughout the week, well, it's pretty cool. We have our anchor teams out there at Assembly Atlanta. They are broadcasting live from Assembly Atlanta, just to not only celebrate how excited we are for the opening of this awesome facility here, but also to show you kind of the behind the scenes and really bring you and immerse you into Assembly Atlanta. Before I say goodbye to you this afternoon, I want to give you guys a quick behind the scenes look. You can see our anchors here, Tracy Hutchins and Carly Barnett, getting ready to gear up for that 3 p.m. show starting here in just a couple of minutes, along with our chief photographer, Steve Franklin, right there on the right hand of your screen. He just stepped out. And we have a lot of exciting things to come on our evening and afternoon newscast today. Hopefully you can join us. Again, I'm Savannah Louie. I anchor the 10 p.m. newscast with Alan Devlin. So we are going to be going to Assembly Atlanta later in just a bit here to prepare that newscast for you. But until then, guys, I want to say thank you again so much for joining me, and hopefully we'll see you soon on the news. All right, guys.